The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242
or visit tomsbeets.com.
Thom Hartmann here for Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a vital part of our media infrastructure. You've heard me say it a million times. I'll say it again. There is such a lack of good, clean, honest reporting and commentary in the American media scene because all of our corporate media has gone to a exclusively for-profit infotainment model rather than the old nonprofit news model that existed pre-1987 when Reagan ended the Fairness Doctrine. Before 1987, news agencies typically lost money for their parent companies because the news was the price of the station license. Now they all make money. Les Moonves famously said, Donald Trump may be terrible for America, but he sure is great for CBS. I'm paraphrasing from memory, but words to that effect, as you'll recall. He was the president of CBS, or the CEO, or whatever his title is. And this has created a real mess for all of us, trying to understand what's going on in the world, because all the news is either sports, who's ahead, who's behind, or drama, who's agonizing, and or who's happy, or who's winning, who's losing, that kind of stuff. Rather than what are the issues, what do they mean, how will they affect your life? If you want to know those things, you have to come to Free Speech TV, which is, unfortunate in a large sense for the United States. I mean, I would love to see the rest of America actually having news. But on the other hand, it's kind of cool that we've got this little corner of the media universe here in the United States that presents good, solid, vetted, fact-checked, real news. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help out Free Speech TV. This is it's a really important time. And I mean, not that there haven't been other important times. And I noticed we brought in, as I recall, around $3,000 on Monday and around $5,000 on Tuesday. Typically, we shoot for $10,000 a day and usually hit around $8,000. So we're way down. I'm guessing that's probably because a lot of you have been chipping in to help people with the hurricanes and the floods and the wildfires and everything else. I mean, there's so many needs out there. But I honor that. But that said, Free Speech TV is an important thing too. We have a set of premiums for your gifts. With an $80 gift, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and Ben Cohen's anti-Big Pharma money stamp. With a $120 gift, you get Mike Papantonio's new legal thriller, Law and Vengeance, along with the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. With a $240 gift, you get 2 books. This is They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. With a $360 gift, you get 3 books. You get Law and Vengeance, you get They Thought They Were Free, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and anti-pharma stamp. Anti-pharma, yeah, and plus you get a copy, an autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. That's with a $360 gift. With a $480 gift, you get Nancy McLean's book. This is just an absolutely amazing book, Democracy in Chains. It is, in my opinion, one of the best books that's been written this year. It's about the right wing and how they've basically, the corporate right wing, the billionaire right wing, and how they have risen up and essentially taken over our government at levels from local all the way up to federal. And it's really remarkable. So you get that book, plus you get the other 3 books on Equal Protection by me. They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. And with a $1,000 gift, we'll figure out a way to get together for lunch. Louise and I are going to be spending much of our time, some of our time in Portland, some of our time here in D.C. So, we'll work it out. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Maybe you want to come to Portland. I mean, it's a beautiful town. If you'd like to visit Portland, here's your excuse. So that's that. Those are the goodies essentially that we're offering at those price point levels. But you can donate anything. I mean, if $80 is too high a lift for you, you can call up and make a $10 donation right now, and just to help the network. That's a good and noble thing. Operators are standing by, as they say. And in fact, it may not even be operators. It may be people who work at Free Speech TV who are answering the phone for you. The number is 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And, please call now. This is just such an important network to keep going. And it does cost money to get the electrons, to provide the lights, to send this image to you up to the, we have to send it from here to Denver, and then Denver up to the satellite, and then the satellites, both Dish and Direct and off to cable systems, they pull it off the satellite too. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay, when we talk on the telephone, and when you pick up your phone, you're not yet on TV, but you're live. But it's just an amazing thing, but it costs money. So please call now and help out. Thank you so much.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom. It is Monday. It's not Groundhog's Day, but it is Groundhog's Day all over again here in Washington, D.C., as the Republicans decide that, again, it is time to try to ram Trump care down the throats of the American people who have soundly rejected it. They are going to try again to destroy Medicaid, to raid Medicare, to throw tens of millions of people off of their health insurance, to increase the premiums and costs to unaffordable levels from where they currently rest at nearly to unaffordable levels to up to extremely unaffordable, especially for older Americans, for Americans with serious health problems. It's just they're returning back to this drive to just steal our money and our health, just reach into our pockets and steal our money, to steal our health care, and to push millions of people into an early grave. Because I guess that's just how Republicans like to get down. They're going to call it, they have all these fancy names for it, and they have all these lies and propaganda about how this time it's different. Don't fall for it. It is Trump care. It is immoral. It is a disaster, and it needs to be resisted. And just like we beat it last time, we're going to beat it again this time. But you're going to have to get to the phones. You're going to have to call the switchboard, 202-224-3121. Call your senators. Tell them that you are watching. The strategy here that they're bringing into play is so obvious. They're just expecting people to not pay attention, and that's how they're going to get away with it. And we're not going to fall for it. And to talk a little bit more about that and how we're going to resist it, how we beat it last time, is my good friend and colleague, John Bowser Bauman, who is joining us right now to talk about how these Republicans just can't quit trying to steal our health care. John, thanks for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program.
Here we go again, Alex.
So I think you heard my setup. It's just the exasperation is pretty clear in my voice. I can't believe, I mean, you know specifically that I literally can't believe it. You wrote me the email and we're like, is this real? And I was like, no, There's no way that they're good. They're doing it again. So just kind of walk us through what's going on and how we're going to resist this, oppose this, defeat this, and move on to the real fight, which is expanding Medicare to everybody and guaranteeing health care for everybody. But before that, we have to we have to fight them from taking away what we already have.
Right. Now, the good news is, there's only one piece of good news with regard to this, and that is that this is over at 11:59 p.m. on September 30th. So this is a very time-limited fight, and they are under great duress to get this done by that time. This has got to be done under reconciliation in the Senate, or it's going to need 60 votes, which they will never get. So they're trying to scrape by 50 so that Mike Pence can gloriously be the 51st to take away everybody's health care. And, clearly the attitude here is we need a win, they say. They need a win, and the win constitutes of taking away millions and millions of Americans' health care. So what we've got to do is, how that is a win, obviously, we can't even begin to fathom. We live in some kind of alternate universe here. But what we've got to do is get on the phones starting now. I mean, as much as I would normally say, call Alex Lawson on the Thom Hartmann program, probably what you need to do first is call your senator, especially if you're in one of the states that is, where we have a shot. We got to make sure we keep Susan Collins in line. We got to make sure we keep Lisa Murkowski in line. Where that third vote is going to come from is a little bit trickier in this, because although it's Trump care, it's the same damn thing. It's no better than it was before. If anything, it's really worse when you look into the details of it. But Lindsey Graham is is the main sponsor of it. So will John McCain stay in line? Will John McCain really hold to his promise that the Senate needs to go back to regular order? And they're certainly not going to be able to do that in this. There are all kinds of ridiculous details about this that are almost laughable. Like, they need to hold a hearing so that John McCain will vote for the bill. But the hearing is supposed to be in the committee that deals with health care issues. Lamar Alexander is working with Patty Murray on these issues, on how to improve Obamacare right now. He's saying he won't hold the hearing. But Ron Johnson, one of the co-sponsors, says, well, I'll hold a hearing in the Homeland Security Committee. That's how ridiculous this is.
Which is just totally fake.
A sham hearing
Yeah.
might be held in a committee that has nothing to do with this. So you've got to pound on John McCain, everybody in Arizona. If you are listening to this in Arizona, call every office that John McCain has now and make sure that he holds to his promise that the Senate needs to go back to regular order, or this cannot be passed. He can't cave to his pal, Lindsey Graham. Got to make sure
John,
that he holds the line.
John, I think, what do you think about Shelley Capito as the third potential? I think that Shelley Capito could be the third no vote. She wasn't there last time, which I don't fully understand what was brought to bear. But she did have that famous line, I didn't come to Congress to hurt people. And that is exactly what Trump care does. So, And
Alex, right. As you know, they're a Medicaid expansion state. This is another factor. This horrible proposal, Graham Cassidy and Heller's in there somewhere.
Trump care.
Trump care still attacks Medicaid, the same way, in fact, almost worse than the previous ones. So Medicaid expansion states specifically, which include Arizona and includes West Virginia and includes Nevada, are still going to be decimated by this.
And John, I want to
absolutely.
I want to go out to a break real quick and then come back and keep this conversation going with you. And on the way out, I want to point out that it gets rid of the expansion, but also Medicaid itself. It destroys Medicaid. That's what they're trying to do right here. Destroy Medicaid, raid Medicare, and throw millions of people off their health insurance. And we're going to keep that conversation going with John Bowser-Baumann right after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
More talk about Trump care, unfortunately, right after this. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. Staying with us on the phone is John Bowser-Baumann, a advocate for senior issues, economic security, just all-around policy and political guru. And we're going through, basically, it is that deja vu all over again. We got to come up with some new... It's what happens in D.C., though. This is just literally the same exact fight as before, where they're trying to use some new words to pretend that it's not, which is why I refuse to call it, you know, the Graham Cassidy Heller monstrosity or anything. It's just Trump care.
It's Trump care. It's Trump care again. It's Trump care 3.0. Pick a course that it is. Same damn thing. We have to resist it in the same way that we did before. People need to go to the offices, their senators' offices, pound on the phones if you can't go to the offices. The phones, let's talk about that for a second. They're almost as good. Phone calls into Senate offices really, really do drive staff crazy, and they have to report them. They're a very, very effective means of protest. So, yes, Senate office protests in person are terrific, but if you can't do that, phones really do work. And if you notice when senators say, well, I didn't vote for that bill because my phone calls ran 500 to 1 against it, they always say my phone calls ran 500 to 1 against it. Phone calls work. Do it. Get the phone numbers. In the cases of our activists that we have compiled all over the country in these states that are important to this issue, we're sending you the phone numbers of every office and just keep calling on the phones, pound on them all day between now and September 30th and make sure that once again we stop this thing. Yes, it is deja vu all over again. But I don't know, Alex, that we can actually improve on Yogi Berra. I mean, that's pretty darn good deja vu all over again.
It is. No, and I shouldn't have even thought that it was possible to improve on that one. Just spending a second on this tactic of phones, I think, is really good. So the Senate switchboard calls the D.C. office. The good news there is you just call one number, 202-224-3121, right, and you can then ask to be connected to the offices. But I do want to point out, and you referenced this, and it's completely true. First of all, it's completely true that phone calling Senate offices works. They have to keep tallies. Those tallies get reported to the chief of staff, who goes right to the member and tells them how the public is on this. And it was the pressure that beat Trump Cares, the earlier iterations of this disaster. There are also multiple home state offices for every senator. And if you live in one of these targeted states, especially Maine, Alaska, West Virginia, I would say are probably our tier one, our top targets.
Arizona, too, I would say.
And Arizona. Totally. Arizona, right. You're right. And I would go online, look up your senators, and on their web pages is all of their home state offices, and you should call each and every one of those. Call them every day and afternoon, each of their offices. That's how we're going to defeat Trump Care again. We're going to be talking about this on the other side of this break. We'll be right back on the Thom Hartmann Program. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom. And with us on the phones is John Bowser-Baumann, Senior Advisor to Social Security Works, the President of Social Security Works PAC, and all-around healthcare activist and advocate for justice. We're talking about how we have to defeat Trump care yet again, how we have to do that by getting our voices heard together, making it clear that the American people reject this version of Trump care, just like we've rejected the previous versions of Trump care. John, this is a real red alert moment. I invite everyone who is on Twitter to read Ben Wickler's Twitter feed on this. Is really keeps us up to date. But kind of go into the politics of this, because I don't understand what their thinking is on this. Like, do you think it's just to try to wash away the defeat of the last time? Because that seems doomed to failure as well. This is a deeply unpopular bill to steal health care from the American people. What are they thinking, or are they just not thinking?
I think this is one of the few instances in which, the punditry makes the general punditry, which is usually wrong, makes one compelling point, although they do it very, in sort of a very dumb way, which is Republicans are just looking for a win. They need a win. Donald Trump feels like he needs a win. I think that's actually true. They just want a win. They don't really seem to care that the win comes at the expense of millions and millions of Americans. 32 million Americans in the version, there may never be a CBO score on this, which is another thing that maybe we'll get to in this conversation. There needs to be, for regular order to exist again, there needs to be a CBO score, and it should tell you both how much this is going to cost and how many people are going to likely get thrown off of their insurance.
So let's actually talk about that.
Like they just want to win.
Let's talk about that right now, because there's one small tweak. They need the CBO score for reconciliation too, and they especially need it for reconciliation because they need the money side of it to see if they can get it through with only 51 votes. It has to actually, they need to be able to show the money side. But they're so cynical and I'd say evil right now that they are doing an amazing thing. They're dividing. The CBO score previously said, it will do this much on the deficit, which would allow them to ram it through with only 51 votes. But then it would also say, and 32 million Americans will lose their health insurance. And we would just go around and be like, look, they're destroying Medicaid, raiding Medicare, and 32 million Americans lose their health insurance and health care. And people are like, no, that's a bad deal. So the Republicans right now are dividing the CBO score, and they're not going to tell us until the vote happens how many tens of millions of people are going to lose their health care. I mean, here's my question to you, John. It's a very difficult question, so you might need to think about the answer. But do you think they're hiding the number of tens of millions of Americans are going to lose their health care because it's a good number, or do you think they're hiding it because it's a bad number?
Well, first of all, I hope that they're not going to succeed in hiding it. Whereas, according to our brilliant friend Ben Wickler, who you quoted before, he says they are approaching this way, and they can kind of technically get away with either not ever getting that number or not divulging the number of people who will be thrown off insurance. We're not entirely sure that is really going to happen that way. The CBO may just come out with it. But we can't count on anything right here. But we do have to understand that happened before with Trump care. The way that it was stopped was the CBO score was tremendously important, and then activists jumped all over the CBO score that 32 million people or 22 million people, depending on which version we're talking about, were going to get thrown off their insurance. We hope the same kind of numbers really are going to come out this time. Obviously, the answer to your question is they won't be trying to hide the CBO score, and they're not telegraphing that they're going to hide the CBO score because it's going to be a good score. We all know it's going to be a terrible score because the bill is just as terrible as other versions of Trump care. So this is what we're looking forward to. Like I say, the only good news is everybody stay focused, stay on this topic. Yes, Bernie Sanders came out with a single payer bill, Medicare for all, last week, and it's a wonderful, you see, Medicare for all is a wonderful idea. But between now and September 30th, we're not going to get Medicare for all. What we need to do is resist Trump care. And then what we need to do is repeal and replace Republicans who are going to stand in our way of getting Medicare for all. So that's the 2018 task. But between now and September 30th, let's stop Trump care again.
And I think we're going to see the exact same thing that we saw last time, which is that healthcare activists, the exact networks that we've built to fight for guaranteeing healthcare as a right for all Americans, are going to be the strongest voices and the street fightingest fighters when it comes to defeating Trump care. And I have every expectation that just like us at Social Security Works, who are pushing for guaranteed health care as a right for all Americans, because that's our goal. We only lose when we forget what we're fighting for. That is what we're fighting for. We also fight against things, which is going in the wrong direction, which is Trump care. That's what this is the chapter that we're on right now in the over 100-year story of fighting for guaranteed health care for all Americans. And I want to, we only have a couple minutes left, but the reason we're so confidently, you and I right now talking about between 22 and 32 million, it's Trump care again, they don't have any new ideas, right? So they're trying to pretend like they do, but we know they have no ideas. It's a bankrupt ideology. It is a bankrupt ideology that is bringing their same bankrupt ideas forward. So we know what is in this version of Trump care. We don't even need to wait for the CBO. In the final minute here, John, just tell everyone listening here on the Thom Hartmann program what they can do, what they should do to defeat this monstrosity.
The main thing that people need to do, and particularly if you're in these states, and I would include Nevada among these states too, even though Heller is on the bill, there's been a tremendous amount of activity in Nevada up until this point, and there needs to continue to be. I know they're still going to do Resist Trump Tuesdays outside Senator Heller's office in Las Vegas, but Arizona, Nevada, Maine, Alaska, West Virginia, the states in which we have Republican senators who might be persuaded to vote against this latest version of Trump care, the latest monstrosity, pound on the phones, go to the offices. As you can hear, I'm already losing my voice. It's in the morning here in California, but I've already talked so much about this today, including to Alex, that my voice is going.
John, we're going to do this. We're going to do this by standing together, raising our voices. We're taking your calls on the Thom Hartmann program right after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
We're taking your calls on the Thom Hartmann Program. So give us a call. We want to talk about defeating Trump care.
Thom Hartmann here for Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a vital part of our media infrastructure. You've heard me say it a million times. I'll say it again. There is such a lack of good, clean, honest reporting and commentary in the American media scene because all of our corporate media has gone to a exclusively for-profit infotainment model rather than the old nonprofit news model that existed pre-1987 when Reagan ended the Fairness Doctrine. Before 1987, news agencies typically lost money for their parent companies because the news was the price of the station license. Now they all make money. Les Moonves famously said, Donald Trump may be terrible for America, but he sure is great for CBS. I'm paraphrasing from memory, but words to that effect, as you'll recall. He was the president of CBS or the CEO or whatever his title is. And this has created a real mess for all of us, trying to understand what's going on in the world, because all the news is either sports, who's ahead, who's behind, or drama, who's agonizing, and or who's happy, or who's winning, who's losing, that kind of stuff, rather than what are the issues, what do they mean, how will they affect your life. If you want to know those things, you have to come to Free Speech TV, which is, unfortunate in a large sense for the United States. I mean, I would love to see the rest of America actually having news. But on the other hand, it's kind of cool that we've got this little corner of the media universe here in the United States that presents good, solid, vetted, fact-checked, real news. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help out Free Speech TV. This is it's a really important time. And I mean, not that there haven't been other important times. And I noticed we brought in, as I recall, around $3,000 on Monday and around $5,000 on Tuesday. Typically, we shoot for $10,000 a day and usually hit around $8,000. So we're way down. I'm guessing that's probably because a lot of you have been chipping in to help people with the hurricanes and the floods and the wildfires and everything else. I mean, there's so many needs out there. But I honor that. But that said, Free Speech TV is an important thing too. We have a set of premiums for your gifts. With an $80 gift, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and Ben Cohen's anti-Big Pharma money stamp. With a $120 gift, you get Mike Papantonio's new legal thriller, Law and Vengeance, along with the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. With a $240 gift, you get 2 books. This is They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. With a $360 gift, you get 3 books. You get Law and Vengeance, you get They Thought They Were Free, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and anti-pharma stamp. Anti-pharma, yeah. And plus you get a copy, an autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. That's with a $360 gift. With a $480 gift, you get Nancy McLean's book. This is just an absolutely amazing book, Democracy in Chains. It is, in my opinion, one of the best books that's been written this year. It's about the right wing and how they've basically, the corporate right wing, the billionaire right wing, and how they have risen up and essentially taken over our government at levels from, local all the way up to federal. And it's really remarkable. So you get that book, plus you get the other 3 books, Unequal Protection by me, They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. And with a $1,000 gift, we'll figure out a way to get together for lunch. Louise and I are going to be spending, much of our time, some of our time in Portland, some of our time here in D.C. So, we'll work it out. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Maybe you want to come to Portland. I mean, it's a beautiful town if you'd like to visit Portland. Here's your excuse. So that's that. Those are the goodies essentially that we're offering at those price point levels. But you can donate anything. I mean, if $80 is too high a lift for you, you can call up and make a $10 donation right now, and just to help the network. That's a good and noble thing. Operators are standing by, as they say. And in fact, it may not even be operators. It may be people who work at Free Speech TV who are answering the phone for you. The number is 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And, please call now. This is just such an important network to keep going. And it does cost money to get the electrons, to provide the lights, to send this image to you up to the, we have to send it from here to Denver, and then Denver up to the satellite. And then the satellites, both Dish and Direct and off to cable systems, they pull it off the satellite too. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay, when we talk on the telephone, and when you pick up your phone, you're not yet on TV, but you're live. But it's just an amazing thing, but it costs money. So please call now and help out. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom. We are talking about the next chapter that we're currently in of the fight against Trump care. The Republicans are dead set on stealing our health care, pushing millions of Americans into an early grave, all for profit and pleasure. I believe that some of them are driven by the obvious profit motive, big insurers, big pharma, Wall Street, which Wall Street is actually basically above big pharma and big insurance. Wall Street's calling the tune there that they dance to. It's all basically profiting on chaos, destruction. These are profitable things, things that work really well, efficiency, systems that work like Social Security, like Medicare, public education, Medicaid. They can't make any money on these. That's why they hate them. That's why they're dead set on destroying them, and they don't care who gets hurt along the way. There are other Republicans, though, that I believe literally enjoy the push to hurt people. Paul Ryan, for example, he admitted he fantasized about pushing millions of seniors into an early grave. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said it all the way back in college. He was waiting in keg lines, fantasizing about stealing seniors' health care. That's sick. That's the only word there is for that. So there's some portion of them, and then there's obviously the people who do it for both reasons. But they are driven to do this. They will not be swayed by the obvious fact that it's wrong. They'll only be swayed and stopped by your voices, by our voices raised together. And I am going to go to the phones to talk with some people about how we're going to do that. And we are going to go to Matthew in Chicago. I'm sorry, in North Carolina. Matthew, you're on the line. You there, Matthew? Maybe not. Maybe you're in Chicago on CPT. Sorry, Matthew. I'm going to go to Regina in Chicago. You're on the line. Regina?
Hi, Alex. Can you hear me?
I can.
Because I'm walking around on a cordless phone. I didn't want.
Thanks for calling, Regina.
Oh, yes. I'm going to help fight. I'm going to be calling. But I had some questions. I'm so glad that you're on because I had a realization this year.
Mm-hmm.
I am a senior. Thank goodness I was able to make it and get my Medicare.
That you earned.
But yes, that I earned. And when I signed up with one of the big companies, starts with an H. Anyway, when I signed up with them, I got snookered into getting the Advantage program. Now, they really didn't explain it to me other than that I would not have to pay this copay thing, you know. So I went on and signed up for that. I was watching my budget because I'm in reasonably good health, thank God, you know. And I said, well, I could go along with this one, you know, because this other company was charging me almost $250 a month for this supplemental. Now, is it a law that I have to have a supplemental, or is it supposed to be my choice that I choose to do this in case of, you know, something I know I have to pay my 20%, you know, with Medicare.
So
okay.
I'm not, the thing that happens when you talk about specific personal benefit questions is that oftentimes it's a complicated system, even though Medicare is a truly elegant, beautiful, simple system, because the Republicans and neoliberals really, you know, they were able to insert Medicare Advantage into the system, making it much more complicated so that you have these private insurers in the system. I can't really specifically know exactly your situation. So you should always go, and you can go to the Social Security office. You can talk about all of your benefits there. You can also, depending on where you are, look up resources as someone who can really go through your Medicare questions specifically. And because I'm not just trying to hedge, I'm just telling you that what often happens is like where you're saying one thing and you mean this, and then I'm using the same word, but I'm talking about something slightly different because, just we're not on the exact same page. So I want to answer your question, which is there's no law. It is a choice to get supplemental coverage or not. But I want you to really go into this question knowing that your specific situation is going to lead you to a right answer. And one of the problems with Medicare Advantage is that it really does up front, depending on your situation. And again, you have to guess a bit about, your own personal health situation in the future. But you should make a decision that's best for you, because Medicare Advantage does exist. It's in policy-wise, over the long term, I'd like to get rid of Medicare Advantage totally, get rid of the private insurance industry totally, remove profit motive completely from the healthcare system. But right now, and where we are, you have to get the answer that's right for your personal benefit situation. So depending on where you are, Chicago, I would actually Google, Medicare advisors, resources. I wouldn't go to a private one. What I would be looking for is a sort of case management or something that's funded by, if you're in Chicago, the city, I'd look for a city resource aimed at seniors and explaining all the different services that are available. So, Regina, it's a long, complicated answer to what should be a pretty simple question, and that's the problem with our healthcare system in general.
I was just going to say that is the problem with all of this. They make it a convoluted It's just ridiculous.
On purpose.
Something that could be on purpose.
On purpose to confuse us.
So easy.
Exactly.
And one more point I'd like to make, so just to make sure everyone out there does this. I learned years ago when I was on my job and teaching, had in my insurance, but there was an issue that came up about a billing matter, and that's when I found out that billing is doled out. I guess that's the right verbiage. It has different tiers of billing, and so you got to really stay on top of your situation, because the bill didn't get paid, and when I found out what they were trying to shoot out to me was an $800 bill, but then when I found out that for the same service, that Medicaid at the time was only had to pay $300 and something, and so that's when I got into medical issues. Period.
Yep.
I said, well, why is it that you bill the state one price and then you're gonna jack it up to me, and because I wouldn't pay it, of course, they tried to send it out to a collection agency and was trying to ruin my credit. But we really have to fight for this, because it's just we got to be tired. We have to be tired of being treated like this in undercover matters, in an undercover way.
Regina, you're so right. And I think the American people are tired of this, and they're ready. We're ready to move to a system that actually makes sense. And, that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for, why should a collection agency be involved at any step of the way? What should happen is you get sick, you get the care that you need. That's what should happen. You have an injury, you get the care that you need. The discussion should be between you and your medical provider. Why right now is there a dude in a $3,000 suit also involved in that discussion? He shouldn't be in the room. That insurance, quote, whatever that insurance middleman is, get rid of the whole industry. It's a parasitic industry that leads to worse health outcomes. We pay the highest prices in the world for worse health outcomes. And so here's the choice. We go to guaranteed health care for everyone. You pay less. I pay less. We pay less and get better health care. That's the choice on the one hand. Or we go down this Trump care path, which is we take our dumb, broken, inefficient, immoral, just horrible, bureaucratic nightmare, Kafkaesque nightmare of a system, and make it even worse. Add in more complexity, more bureaucracy, anyone who's spent even a moment on the line with an insurance company knows that a moment in insurance time is actually 6 hours of frustrating argument with them. Our healthcare system is a bureaucratic nightmare, and we need to fix it. Right now, we're fighting against the Republicans from making it worse. I'm going to go to Dave in Massachusetts. Dave, you're on the line.
Yes, good afternoon. As I'm listening to the show this afternoon, I'm reminded of the lessons that George Lakoff tries to teach us. And when we refer to this latest proposal by the GOP, we like to contrast it with Obamacare by giving it a similar name and using the word Trump. But I would like to implore you to not use the term that you and all the other pundits are using, but to call it Trump pain. In contrast that with Obamacare, there is no care in the current GOP proposal, and I think it would behoove us, in honor of George Lakoff, to refer to it as Trump pain. That's my simple comment.
Dave, thanks for calling in. Trump pain, Trump don't care. I've heard a lot of them, and I agree on the one hand. So, like, if we were in charge, Dave, you and I, we might be able to come to a Lakoffian conclusion that we call it Trump pain or Trump don't care. I try to make up for calling it Trump care by then making sure everyone knows that they are stealing our money, our health care, and pushing millions of Americans into an early grave. Straightforward messaging is really important to me. Though, and we, Dave, you and I, are in a battle with a bunch of pundit class folks and wonk folks who won't refer to it as one thing and won't just say the simple message that it destroys Medicaid, it raids Medicare, it throws tens of millions of Americans off of their health care and their health insurance. So I think that you're correct in the fight that we should be having. But right now, I would just like everyone to call it Trump care and clearly say what it is that it does. Instead of like going into the argument of, oh, well, actually, this one only throws 31 million people off of health care. That is not how we need simple, straightforward messaging so people understand that they're coming for your health care. They're coming for my health care. They're coming for our earned benefits, and they're going to steal them from us unless we stand up together and raise our voices. Dave, thanks for the call. I'm going to go to Mitch in Oregon. Mitch, you're on the line.
Yes, sir. I just got a quick minute, but I wanted to pass this on, and I picked this tip up on the Norm Goldman show a few weeks back, and I've tried it. My fiance's tried it. My son's tried it. We all vote. We're all active. We all are trying to push and to help people to communicate. Not everybody likes to get on the phone and call the people at the offices. And, not everybody has internet. But what I found is on the Norm Goldman show, somebody had put out there a texting format. It's called ResistBot. And It's real simple to do, and anybody can communicate it. It's really easy. It takes 5 minutes, and it communicates you to the people you need to communicate to, all for you. And I just wanted to get that message out and try to see if that could be something that's reminded for people to really get out there, because we need a voice no matter how they get it. They need to hear our voices. And if I may, just go ahead and put that out there. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, you already have ResistBot, and I agree with you, Mitch. It's a great idea.
With the number, if I may, can I give you the number?
And definitely, go ahead.
You want to text RESIST, RESIST, to the number 50409. Now, I'm not affiliated with them whatsoever. I'm just a believer in communicating and getting the message out, and that is it's nice. They respond and everything. They validate the delivery. So please, if that helps people, let them use it.
Mitch, you're so right. You're so right, Mitch. I'm putting one caveat on it, which is I know this town very well, and the hierarchy of touches to the office is an order, and an in-person visit is the number one. A phone call is the number two, and those two are way primary, so they care about them most of all. After those, text and email are right there, and they need to hear our voices in avalanche. So if you're more comfortable texting, and it's the choice between you're not going to communicate with them, or you are, definitely text resist to you should have this, and it should be an option. Text resist to 50409. If you can make those phone calls, though, those really have weight. Those are our primary tactic that we should use. And we should call the district offices from people who live in those states. Those are the best phone calls. Those count the most, and you can call all of their offices. So many senators have 4 or more state offices, depending on the size of the state. But even smaller states, the senators have multiple offices. You can call each one of those offices and then their D.C. office in the morning and in the afternoon. So you can do it at 2 times during the day. And I hope people hear that. You can call all of their offices in the morning and the afternoon. And there are staffers who are actually taking the tallies. Now, basically, those tallies get reported up to the chief of staff, who go directly to the senator, and then all other communications, which includes faxes, letters, texts, and emails, are also reported up. But it's those phone numbers that are given such weight. So we're going to defeat this Trump care just like we have before. We're going to do it because we are not going to give up. We never give up. We raise our voices in unison, and that's why we're going to win. We'll be right back on the Thom Hartmann Program.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Taking more of your calls on the Thom Hartmann Program right after this. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Austin, filling in for Tom, and we are going to go right to the phones. Bob in Oklahoma, you are on the line. Thanks for calling.
Well, thanks for having me, Alex. I think you do a pretty good job here.
Thanks.
Yeah, filling in. You're a very intelligent man. I agree with what you say when you return to your base of thinking, although I do want to be candid. The screener asked me to be specific, so I'm going to, if I may.
Of course.
Okay. We're talking statistics, this, that, and the other thing, who to call, this, that. I want to say this. I've been at this a long time. And what we have is a kind of a neo class of people that sit between the politicians and what we would refer to as, most of us would refer to as most of us, the rest of us. And they work in the healthcare system. I've known doctors. I have doctors in my family. I have friends who are doctors and work in the healthcare system. And all of this yuppie class, this neo class, and we can dig into what neo means. That would be a good idea, because it's almost as if these people are living in la-la land. They live in psychobabble abstractville. The future for healthcare in this country is going to be the caring attitude that providers give to people in their homes. The doctors do technical work to remove cancers that are going to kill us all anyway, and give us medicine to sort of, placate our heart disease while we go ahead and have it anyway. I don't think healthcare has much to do with the medical industry, as you return to in your base of thinking. But I don't think we're going to have a candid discussion about this until we can talk about how we live on the land, how we live with nature as part of the web of nature, as Chief Seattle said, and other intelligent white people through the years. I don't know what is keeping us from having this discussion, because at Free Speech TV, of course, you say all the time you're not embedded with corporations, and yet we're not having the discussion about ending cannabis prohibition. John from Washington, or Paul, rather, John from Minnesota, Norma from Alabama. A lot of people have been on this network for a long time trying to say truth to power. Usually we get shut down when Tom's on the air. So I appreciate you letting me speak. Alex, the yuppie class is our enemy in the United States today.
Are they the ones? I had a little bit of trouble understanding you, but if you talked about ending cannabis prohibition, which I believe you did, we definitely should talk about that. You want to talk about who's fighting against that? It's the same, and it's what you're saying. It's the same people. I mean, like the Purdue Pharmaceuticals, who the Sackler family made $15 billion from creating the opioid crisis. They had to pay a fine. They had to admit that Purdue Pharmaceuticals created the opioid epidemic. It's leaving carnage, destruction, and death in its wake. They're the ones, Purdue Pharmaceuticals and all the opioid manufacturers, fund the campaign to keep cannabis illegal. So, Bob, thank you so much for your call, and I agree, it is all related, and it's all dancing to the tune of Wall Street, and that's why we got to fight back. We'll be back on the Thom Hartmann Program right after this. Alex Austin filling in for Tom, and I only got a couple minutes left here, and I've got a minute and a half left here. So Kevin, in one of my favorite cities, actually it's my favorite city in the country, Santa Fe, New Mexico, you got a really short time, so give us the information as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Alex, for all the informative and good information that you give us on Social Security and more, and for filling in for Tom. I think you're doing a great job.
Thanks, Kevin.
Bay is already on the phones. We've defeated before, and we want to keep our record of 100% going. This is something that would put more people like the victims of the nursing home scandal in Florida out on the streets. We would create retired homeless shelters.
The destruction of Medicaid, Kevin, as you're talking about, along with raiding Medicare. I mean, Medicaid is the largest provider of long-term care in this country. Long-term care, nursing homes for seniors, for people living with disabilities. You get rid of Medicaid, that all goes away, and there is no plan to replace it. So you're exactly right, Kevin. What we saw in Florida, where you had 8 seniors die after Irma because they didn't have a backup generator, because these parasites lobbied against a law that would have made that happen. We want to empower those people more. That's what Trump Care wants to do, empower those people more. And Kevin, you're also right. We're going to defeat it and keep our average at 100% defeating Trump Care by raising our voices together. And next hour, we're going to keep this conversation going. So stick with us on the Thom Hartmann Program.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242
or visit tomsbeets.com.
Thom Hartmann here for Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a vital part of our media infrastructure. You've heard me say it a million times. I'll say it again. There is such a lack of good, clean, honest reporting and commentary in the American media scene because all of our corporate media has gone to a exclusively for-profit infotainment model rather than the old nonprofit news model that existed pre-1987 when Reagan ended the Fairness Doctrine. Before 1987, news agencies typically lost money for their parent companies because the news was the price of the station license. Now they all make money. Les Moonves famously said, Donald Trump may be terrible for America, but he sure is great for CBS. I'm paraphrasing from memory, but words to that effect, as you'll recall. He was the president of CBS, or the CEO, or whatever his title is. And this has created a real mess for all of us, trying to understand what's going on in the world, because all the news is either sports, who's ahead, who's behind, or drama, who's agonizing, and or who's happy, or who's winning, who's losing, that kind of stuff. Rather than what are the issues, what do they mean, how will they affect your life? If you want to know those things, you have to come to Free Speech TV, which is, unfortunate in a large sense for the United States. I mean, I would love to see the rest of America actually having news. But on the other hand, it's kind of cool that we've got this little corner of the media universe here in the United States that presents good, solid, vetted, fact-checked, real news. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help out Free Speech TV. This is it's a really important time. And I mean, not that there haven't been other important times. And I noticed we brought in, as I recall, around $3,000 on Monday and around $5,000 on Tuesday. Typically, we shoot for $10,000 a day and usually hit around $8,000. So we're way down. I'm guessing that's probably because a lot of you have been chipping in to help people with the hurricanes and the floods and the wildfires and everything else. I mean, there's so many needs out there. But I honor that. But that said, Free Speech TV is an important thing too. We have a set of premiums for your gifts. With an $80 gift, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and Ben Cohen's anti-Big Pharma money stamp. With a $120 gift, you get Mike Papantonio's new legal thriller, Law and Vengeance, along with the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. With a $240 gift, you get 2 books. This is They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. With a $360 gift, you get 3 books. You get Law and Vengeance, you get They Thought They Were Free, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and anti-pharma stamp. Anti-pharma, yeah. And plus you get a copy, an autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. That's with a $360 gift. With a $480 gift, you get Nancy McLean's book. This is just an absolutely amazing book, Democracy in Chains. It is, in my opinion, one of the best books that's been written this year. It's about the right wing and how they've basically, the corporate right wing, the billionaire right wing, and how they have risen up and essentially taken over our government at levels from local all the way up to federal, and it's really remarkable. So you get that book, plus you get the other 3 books: On Equal Protection by me, They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. And with a $1,000 gift, we'll figure out a way to get together for lunch. Louise and I are going to be spending much of our time, some of our time in Portland, some of our time here in D.C. So, we'll work it out. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Maybe you want to come to Portland. I mean, it's a beautiful town. If you'd like to visit Portland, here's your excuse. So that's that. Those are the goodies essentially that we're offering at those price point levels. But you can donate anything. I mean, if $80 is too high a lift for you, you can call up and make a $10 donation right now, and just to help the network. That's a good and noble thing. Operators are standing by, as they say. And in fact, it may not even be operators. It may be people who work at Free Speech TV who are answering the phone for you. The number is 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And, please call now. This is just such an important network to keep going. And it does cost money to get the electrons, to provide the lights, to send this image to you up to the, we have to send it from here to Denver, and then Denver up to the satellite, and then the satellites, both Dish and Direct and off to cable systems, they pull it off the satellite too. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay, when we talk on the telephone, and when you pick up your phone, you're not yet on TV, but you're live. But it's just an amazing thing, but it costs money. So please call now and help out. Thank you so much.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program, and I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom. And I have it's my pleasure and a real honor to be joined in studio by the one and only Rock Newman, among so many other things, the host of the Rock Newman Show on WHU TV, online, on YouTube, the Rock Newman Show. But if I started listing your bio, Rock, we would run out of time.
Some of it's true.
So I just want to say thank you for joining us. Rock's going to be with us all this hour. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, healthcare, Trump care.
Yeah.
We got a lot of callers who want to talk about this, the Republican drive to steal our healthcare.
Yeah. Alex, if I can say something, thank you so much for inviting me. But listening to your hour proceeding, it really made me think about the ultimate importance to so many people of Social Security, and Social Security remaining fully intact. My father died when I was a junior in high school, and had it not been for that sacred Social Security, I do not know how I would have completed school or how my mother would have eaten. She was late in her 60s, not in the best of health. And from Social Security, because, it hits home with me. So many times we get into the policy weeds and don't understand the very real impact that it has on people's lives. So I've said it in some ways before, but man, my hat's off to you and all who fight for Social Security the way you've done.
Thank you, Rock Newman. That means a lot to me. It really does. And you're completely right. When you talk about the people.
Personalize it, man.
That's what we're talking about.
You got to personalize this thing because it's critical.
And let me personalize it a little bit. And Rock kind of knows this, but any ability I have in interviewing people, I just stole right from watching you, Rock. The Rock Newman Show, when it came back here, we had the great honor of hosting it at We Act Radio, which was it was really amazing. And watching you and the guests you brought in and the caliber, and really what it was is that you did that. You took it to the personal story and you would uncover these facets of a story that otherwise, the corporate news just can't ever tell they can't tell the truth. They've got their objective is not telling the story.
Yeah.
It's selling product.
Man, I had a vision, I had a dream, to return to broadcasting. And I will never forget that first day. It was February the 23rd, the day before my birthday, at WEAC Radio, and how it started. And interestingly enough, to kind of tie something together, you've mentioned a few times about this administration that's in place now. It was Charlie Brotman who had announced every
Thank you for bringing this up.
From Harry Truman, who introduced me that day. As a matter of fact, I remember saying after his introduction, I said, that's it. It just won't get any better than that. But here's a man who really had been the centerpiece of presidential inaugurations, announcing the president for all these years. And then, as a sign of things to come, he was absolutely disrespected and unceremoniously dismissed. And what followed has been disrespect for the country, disrespect for the world, and a shame to America.
I want to, so Charlie Brotman, this is like a perfect encapsulation of the Donald Trump era, because the point was he announced every president, Republican, Democrat. It wasn't about politics.
Didn't matter.
It was about this is America.
Yes.
And he was this voice that was like, this is part of the continuity of America.
This is a nice slice of the apple pie of America.
And he was a sports announcer.
Sure.
That's his.
Yeah.
And it was all about this bringing Americans together, and for no other reason than cruelty.
Yeah.
Donald Trump. Who knows, who can foretell the future? But Donald Trump, because he's a cruel person, one of the first things he did is said, no, I'm not going to have you announce my inauguration.
Right. Forget tradition. Forget that he's 80 plus years old. Forget that he's the ultimate decent person. Forget that his style and personality and history is one of bringing people together. Just no.
I know. It was like, from that moment, you got an understanding that this is the kind of cruelty and just pettiness that we're going to see over and over and over again. And today at the UN, we saw it again.
Yeah. And what happened was, again, another pattern. Lie after lie after lie as to why it was done and how it was done, when in fact it was very obvious. All politicians, man. The art, I think, of being a politician is to be able to sell maybe something not exactly as it is, but to be able to fudge and move a little bit. Integrity is not the substance of most politicians, but at least they pretend. This guy will walk out in the morning that we're talking about down at the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I don't even like to say his name.
I know.
But will come out and the sun will be shining. And this dude will say, no, the sun's not shining. It's raining, and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. The sad thing is that then some of his supporters will start repeating the same thing, even though they're getting blinded by a bright light in the sky that's orange.
It is his MO. It is his MO. I want to talk about so many things, but one thing that I'm following on your social media, and I know you talk a lot about it, and Charlie Brotman comes from the sports world. You rock our, like I said, your bio is too long to list, but you also come from the sports world in many ways, and it's really that nexus of the best of what sports can be.
Sure.
Right, what they can do in bringing us together and making us strive to be better.
Yes.
Which I think, Colin Kaepernick is one of the best examples of. He's trying to use his position to draw attention to a rot in our country.
Right, a capital R-O-T.
Yes.
Rot. Yes.
A rot.
Yes.
In our country. And, the billionaire owners of the NFL teams are clearly pushing him aside, and they're saying, we are not going to allow this athlete to use his position to try to draw attention to a critical issue.
Not going to give him the right that he has as an American citizen with so-called free speech. Let me say something, because you mentioned about, the best of sports. One of the moments in sports that I like to point to is to how sports can galvanize a community, can galvanize a nation, and pull people together. Was Washington's football team was playing in a playoff game against the Dallas Cowboys, and a pass was tipped up in the air from Danny White from the Cowboys by Dexter Manley, and the big lineman, his name was Mann, I forget his name, but number 77, Mann, and he caught the ball, and all 290 pounds of him high-stepped into the end zone. I happened to be sitting in the cheapest of the cheap seats because I had no money at that time. I don't even know how I hustled my way in the stadium. But there was a blue-haired white lady with a fur coat on, and you could tell she was just dripping of real jewels. And there was a guy, he was a gentleman one might have thought might have been homeless. But he had made his way into the stadium, also had a raggedy old coat on, was cussing the whole time. He was drinking out of a bottle of whiskey. That lady tapped him on her, that white lady tapped him, that black man, on his shoulder and said, "Can I have a taste?" He said, "Sure." He went to get a cup. She took that bottle and turned it up. She was so happy. It was black and white coming together around sports. It was hilarious, but it was a moment that wasn't lost on me, and I've always remembered it. Okay, now let's go to today. I don't know if you saw this, but I recently posted something on Facebook, and it was a caricature of James Baldwin, the great writer, author. And on his caricature, it said, to be Negro, and he wrote this in 1962 or so, to be Negro in America and relatively conscious is to nearly always be in a rage. I put it there because when I think about Kaepernick and what has happened, here is a man who's qualified to be playing on many teams. He's better than many of the quarterbacks in the NFL right now. But because he dared to stand up against what he saw to be an injustice, the plantation mentality, old, rude, and crude ownership, all white, says to him, the black man, how dare you step out of what the box that we have for you. You step out of that box and we will punish you. And I think people who are woke and people of conscience should really resist that also. To hell with the NFL now, the way that they're behaving. They've got a lot of other sins also in terms of covering up brain injury, the damage, the reports, and all of that. But here today, it is a travesty, and I think we should all resist it also.
And it's a galvanizing moment, I think, is what you're also, telling that story. This is something that people of conscience can see, and really, there's no avoiding it.
No.
Kaepernick is actually drawing attention to a system of white supremacy, and it is apparent, and he's using his position to do good, and he's punished.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And we're going to keep this conversation going. We're going to go out to a break right now, but it is a galvanizing moment, and I want, from your perspective, it's so deep involved in so much of this stuff, it harkens to previous times that sports have been used in social change.
We will have to come back to Muhammad Ali.
You knew where I was going.
And I'll talk about that and the similarities and the parallels.
And I have the great honor of having that conversation with Rock Newman, host of The Rock Newman Show on WHUTV. And we're going to be taking your calls, me and Rock, after this. So stick with us on the Thom Hartmann Program.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Staying with us in studio, Rock Newman, host of The Rock Newman Show on WHUT-TV. and we'll be taking your calls after this. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom. Have the pleasure of staying with us in studio is Rock Newman, host of The Rock Newman Show on WHUT-TV. And we're talking about sports. Anytime I get the chance to talk with you, Rock, what I want to do is just be like, tell me some amazing stories. I want to talk about Muhammad Ali. I want to talk about that, but I want to pause and get to that because I really want to make sure we have enough time to tell that story. But some of you have a deep knowledge and understanding. I want people to understand what you're saying about the NFL, the magnitude of it that is coming from you, Rock Newman. I met the former quarterback of Washington's football team in We Act Radio because you brought his family down there, right? I mean, you know football. You are involved in this in a huge way. And the magnitude of you saying, to hell with the NFL. I want you to really I can understand it, but I want you to get to how big it has to be for you to say we need to actually turn our backs, stay sitting when it comes to the NFL.
Well, Alex, I think the way that I would try to frame that is to ask the question and then to answer it. What is the NFL? The NFL is a group of 32 teams now? 32 teams that are owned by mostly older white individuals who all would claim to be not having white supremacist tendencies. And when something like a Kaepernick comes up, where he exercises his constitutional right to stand or not stand, turn his back or not turn his back, in a form of peaceful protest against the injustices of a society that he lives in. Yes. How he chooses to do that is a right that he has. Now, one would say the owners not signing him is a right also. And then one would have to say, okay, that is a right, but you are punishing him. You are punishing him for his courage to stand up, just like an unjust system punished Muhammad Ali by taking his title away for not taking that step forward. So the NFL is all of these. It's a collection of owners who make decisions about the people that they employ, oftentimes without any regard whatsoever for what is just, for what is right, and for what, and history proves, they make decisions with putting finances well over the health of those they work for.
Rock, you're so right on that, and we're gonna come right back to talking about Muhammad Ali and his protest, Colin Kaepernick and his protest, and the parallels that are so apparent in these two stories on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. Staying with us in studio, Rock Newman, host of The Rock Newman Show on WHUT-TV, online on YouTube. You can find all of his shows, The Rock Newman Show. Rock, Colin Kaepernick's use of his platform that he earned through his athleticism, through his dedication, that his ability as a quarterback is
to lead the team to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Right. Is clearly not in question.
Yep.
and he chose to exercise his constitutionally protected right of free speech, and he's being punished by the owners who just say, you know, no politics, this is sports. But what they mean is no politics that don't agree with my politics, because there are politics all over that sport.
Absolutely. And it's ownership that, again, is putting finances and revenue far above what is right. And what do I mean by that? People may not know how much the NFL has been influenced by the military-industrial complex and how much money. Look, the national anthem wasn't even sung all the time before all games, you know. But now you have the flyovers, and it is simply a recruiting tool. So once again, you put, okay, if these folks are going to give me money, if the military is going to give me money, United States government is going to give me money, you damn right I am going to keep my field hands doing what I want them to do, because I don't want them to jeopardize that money. In spite of the fact that if you are talking about being an American and you're talking about the best ideals of America and being a patriot, that is very unpatriotic to not allow free speech. And they have that ability to allow it or to disallow it. And part of what they're doing in trying to make an example of Kaepernick is to disallow it. Much like, and Alice, I'm going to take a moment. We've kind of been hot and heavy here. But Muhammad Ali was singularly the most important human influence on my life. Even long before I met him, I was the ultimate fanatic. It go way beyond fan. I was the fanatic. So much so that I knew everything he ever uttered, and I remembered much of it. And one of them was, one of his things that he said in preparation for his big title fight was that this is the legend of Cassius Clay, the most beautiful fighter of the world today. He talks a great deal and brags indeed of a muscular punch with a muscular punch. This is the legend of Cassius Clay, the most beautiful fighter of the world today. He's got a muscular punch. He's got plenty of speed. And I forgot it as I'm sitting here now, but I got a wonderful point. But much more important than my amnesia is what Ali chose to do with his platform for what he thought was right. And here is the parallel. The parallel with Kaepernick is he was roundly hated and criticized. And those who hated him and criticized him found in the lens of history, the look back through history, how much they were on the wrong side of history. And those now who criticize Kaepernick because he dares to talk about it. And what he's talking about real life issues. He's talking about police brutality. He's talking about, yeah, Black lives do matter. And hopefully what your audience understands is whenever it is said Black lives matter, it never is at the exclusion of any other life. There is a plea. There is a pleading to say our lives matter. We're summarily being shot down like dogs in the street.
That's what he's saying with Black Lives Matter. It's a question that he's having to draw attention to.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Brock Newman staying with us, and we're going to have more of this show coming right up.
Thom Hartmann here for Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a vital part of our media infrastructure. You've heard me say it a million times. I'll say it again. There is such a lack of good, clean, honest reporting and commentary in the American media scene because all of our corporate media has gone to a exclusively for-profit infotainment model rather than the old nonprofit news model that existed pre-1987 when Reagan ended the Fairness Doctrine. Before 1987, news agencies typically lost money. for their parent companies because the news was the price of the station license. Now they all make money. Les Moonves famously said, Donald Trump may be terrible for America, but he sure is great for CBS. I'm paraphrasing from memory, but words to that effect, as you'll recall. He was the president of CBS, or the CEO, or whatever his title is. And this has created a real mess for all of us, trying to understand what's going on in the world, because all the news is either sports, who's ahead, who's behind, or drama, who's agonizing, and or who's happy, or who's winning, who's losing, that kind of stuff, rather than what are the issues, what do they mean, how will they affect your life? If you want to know those things, you have to come to Free Speech TV, which is, unfortunate in a large sense for the United States. I mean, I would love to see the rest of America actually having news. But on the other hand, it's kind of cool that we've got this little corner of the media universe here in the United States that presents good, solid, vetted, fact-checked, real news. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help out Free Speech TV. This is it's a really important time. And I mean, not that there haven't been other important times. And I noticed we brought in, as I recall, around $3,000 on Monday and around $5,000 on Tuesday. Typically, we shoot for $10,000 a day and usually hit around $8,000. So we're way down. I'm guessing that's probably because a lot of you have been chipping in to help people with the hurricanes and the floods and the wildfires and everything else. I mean, there's so many needs out there. But I honor that. But that said, Free Speech TV is an important thing too. We have a set of premiums for your gifts. With an $80 gift, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and Ben Cohen's anti-Big Pharma money stamp. With a $120 gift, you get Mike Papantonio's new legal thriller, Law and Vengeance, along with the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. With a $240 gift, you get 2 books. This is They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. With a $360 gift, you get 3 books. You get Law and Vengeance, you get They Thought They Were Free, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and anti-pharma stamp. Anti-pharma, yeah. And plus you get an autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. That's with a $360 gift. With a $480 gift, you get Nancy McLean's book. This is just an absolutely amazing book, Democracy in Chains. It is, in my opinion, one of the best books that's been written this year. It's about the right wing and how they've basically, the corporate right wing, the billionaire right wing, and how they have risen up and essentially taken over our government at levels from local all the way up to federal. And it's really remarkable. So you get that book, plus you get the other 3 books, Unequal Protection by me, They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. And with a $1,000 gift, we'll figure out a way to get together for lunch. Louise and I are going to be spending much of our time, some of our time in Portland, some of our time here in D.C. So, we'll work it out. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Maybe you want to come to Portland. I mean, it's a beautiful town if you'd like to visit Portland. Here's your excuse. So that's that. Those are the goodies essentially that we're offering at those price point levels. But you can donate anything. I mean, if $80 is too high a lift for you, you can call up and make a $10 donation right now, and just to help the network. That's a good and noble thing. Operators are standing by, as they say. And in fact, it may not even be operators. It may be people who work at Free Speech TV who are answering the phone for you. The number is 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And, please call now. This is just such an important network to keep going. And it does cost money to get the electrons, to provide the lights, to send this image to you up to the, we have to send it from here to Denver, and then Denver up to the satellite, and then the satellites, both Dish and Direct and off to cable systems, they pull it off the satellite too. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay, when we talk on the telephone, and when you pick up your phone, you're not yet on TV, but you're live. But it's just an amazing thing, but it costs money. So please call now and help out. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom. And in studio with us, Rock Newman, the host of The Rock Newman Show on WHUT TV. You can find all the videos on YouTube, Rock Newman Show. Keep telling us about Muhammad Ali, because I know it's like, Muhammad Ali, not only his sports, but also what sports can mean, the sports and the activism. I've heard you tell the stories before. It really did lead you in your career and as Riddick Bowe's manager, and then the social justice activism. They've both been there for you as long as you've been a public figure. It seems that comes from Ali. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. As I said, he's the single most influential person in my life, and he was that long before I met him. I got very friendly with him later on, but long before then. And part of what he did was he showed you how to have courage, the courage of your convictions, and stand up and speak truth to power. Frederick Douglass said, "Power concedes nothing without a struggle. It never has. It never will." Come today in 2016 and 2017, the NFL owners have a tremendous amount of power. And I'll be damned if they want, again, a field hand like Kaepernick doing something that might challenge the power that they have. So what do? They did like the government did. They did like licensing organizations did back in the mid-1960s when they stripped Ali of his title because he exercised his constitutional right. So again, that's power not conceding something without a struggle, and power that is a very self-serving and self-perpetuating power. See, I'm also frustrated, not just with the owners, but I am frustrated with what 70% blacks play in the NFL. What do you think would happen if 50% of that 70% would all band together and say, we're not playing until Cap? You are denying him unfairly. We are going to insist that either you hire him or we won't play. The NFL would do the right thing. If it didn't do the right thing, it would collapse overnight. And when daybreak comes, they would get religion, and all of a sudden, somebody would recognize that Kaepernick was better than many of the quarterbacks that are starting now, not alone just backup quarterbacks.
It is so obvious on talent that this is a politically motivated. You can't look at some of the starting quarterbacks.
Talk about Russia collusion. Let's talk about NFL collusion.
Let's go to Brenda in Virginia. Brenda, you're on the line with Rock Newman and me.
Hi, thanks very much. I really like the point that you all are making about Kaepernick being a field hand in the NFL in the way that they're dealing with him. Back in 2012, you may remember that Papa John's owner and chief executive officer made the comments about the Affordable Care Act, how the pizza prices were going to go up because of the Affordable Care Act and how much it was going to cost him. That was definitely a political statement. This year, the biggest football in politics has been the Affordable Care Act and in Congress. And what's been going on? Well, gee, you've had Peyton Manning supporting the Papa John CEO, as well as all last year. Now this year, it is called the official pizza of the NFL. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. So it's okay for Peyton Manning to wade into the political fray, but it's not okay for Kaepernick. Could that be because of the field hand and the non-field hand entity?
Look, when you want to start talking about hypocrisy, and you talk about Tom Brady with the New England Patriots, who, whether or not he was convicted of cheating, in the court of public opinion, and people who believe not what I say, but believe their non-lying eyes, knows what he did, and everybody in the NFL knows what he did. Here is a man who's one of the greatest athletes ever, led his team to multiple championships, and you got some kid out on a field or some guy deflating the balls without the quarterback knowing it. So you got a cheater that you know is cheating, and he's the face of the NFL and supports Donald Trump. So you coddle this cheater, you coddle a wife beater, you coddle an abuser, you coddle people who were charged with murder and got off by the skin of their skin. There is so much, boy, when you start talking about hypocrisy, you should put NFL/hypocrisy.
It's true. It's like the problem with talking about this is the magnitude. It's like somewhat like Kaepernick is almost, it's a small thing compared with all of the terribleness that you can talk about, which is why I was saying galvanizing moment is how it is a bigger thing.
And also how the NFL and I'm really the commissioner, I'm really disappointed in him on many fronts, because again, he's a poster child for hypocrisy also when he talks about the equality that he strives for, the diversity that he strives for, and he supports and condones and props up a Dan Snyder, who's the owner of the NFL, who has the most racist name in all of sports, the most demeaning and disrespectful name in all of sports. So, hypocrisy really does run rampant through the NFL. And, we talk about the issues, we talk about the problems, but part of what I want to suggest to those folks that are, Tom's listeners and Tom's viewers, it's okay. So what do? Man, boycott everything NFL. Man caught, woman caught everything NFL, because this ain't no child play. This is the business of adults who can stand up and show an example within their homes about what integrity and character and substance is about to their kids, saying, hey, daddy wants to watch this game today, but this game is perpetuating discrimination in a very significant way, and daddy and mommy are going to stand up, and they're not going to watch the NFL. They're not going to buy these games. They're not going to let you watch it. That shows principle. So it is a galvanizing moment, Alex, and it's a good term that that you've expressed, because that's exactly what it is. And we should shine a light on it, and we should discuss the issue, but more importantly, we should show our protest by denying the NFL what is its God, and that is its money.
That is what runs the NFL. I'm going to take another caller, but just on that, it's why it's almost not hypocrisy, because it's so blatant. You know what I mean? Like, you're allowed.
I get that point.
You're allowed your free speech as long as it's in the direction of money and power. If you're standing up for the people, then all of a sudden it's political.
That's right.
If it's not, if it's standing up for money and power, then no, that's just that's sports being sports. Michael, we want to go to Michael in Kansas.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I am a combat veteran. I was with the 1st Air Cav in Vietnam, 69 and 70, in the infantry. I spent my whole time in that jungle and as a door gunner. And you two and Kaepernick are my heroes. I got practically every medal you can get in Vietnam.
I'm giving you a standing ovation here.
The way you're standing up for Black Lives Matter and black people in this country, where people don't realize there are so many white people actually fighting for black people in this country. I mean, it happened during the Civil War, but it went unrecognized. But you two are phenomenal, and I just want to thank you.
Michael, thank you so much. Rock, you want to say anything?
Yeah, man, it's heartwarming to hear someone who has been in the trenches, putting their life on the line, instead of coming out and saying, making the false argument, creating the false narrative that not to stand for the flag is somehow disrespecting veterans who've put their lives on the line. I'm not sure what the language requirement is on this show, but that's bullshit.
That was against the language requirement.
Okay.
Michael, thank you so much for your call. And we got a little bit of time. I think what, Rock, you're bringing up is they are trying to use patriotism to silence Kaepernick. They're trying to actually define patriotism in a very narrow and specific way. When in fact, patriotism in this country is standing up for justice, using free speech. And we only got a couple seconds left in this segment, but we're going to keep this going into the next one. And we want to keep taking your calls on the Thom Hartmann program. I'm going to get to your calls. I'm looking at the call screen. Thank you for calling in, and we're going to get there. So stick with us. We'll be back in just a minute here with more of your calls on the Thom Hartmann program.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Taking more of your calls with Rock Newman on the Thom Hartmann program right after this. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann program. In studio with us, Rock Newman, host of The Rock Newman Show on WHUT-TV, on YouTube, The Rock Newman Show. And I want to go right to the line so that we can get a call here. Fatima in Chicago, you're on with Rock Newman and myself.
Well, hello. I'm so glad I had a chance to watch the show. I really learned a lot from the quote that Rock mentioned about the quote from
Baldwin.
Yeah, that is so true. But anyway, I also wanted to bring up the point of what's going on now with Bennett. I think his name is Martellus Bennett, and how the Las Vegas police took him down and drew guns on him and handcuffed him. And I just want to hear what Rock Newman has to say.
It is a continuation of a disregard for the life and body of African Americans who, because too many people in the majority community, in the white community, still have not evolved to a point where they feel as if the value of a black life is the same of a white life. Now, in reality, that is the quintessence of white supremacy. You know, I recently heard somebody say, "Oh, you're talking about white supremacy too much." I mean, talking about in general now, you're starting to hear the word white supremacist too much. The person at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue was just called a white supremacist, and the person who did it from ESPN augmented that by saying, well, look at him. He surrounds himself with people who have a history and a practice. As individuals in this country, we're not who we say we are. We are what we do. We are defined by what we do. And when you discriminate against people trying to rent your properties, and when you start off, when you get into the political arena by talking about Barack Obama not being an American citizen and demanding that he show his college degree, demanding just really demeaning aspects of this man's life. Well, you might, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, you know, it's a duck.
Donald Trump's a white supremacist. That's the, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, Donald Trump is a white supremacist. The other part of white supremacy is the police in Las Vegas. Well,
that's my point.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, but not just that they obviously throw this man to the ground, put a gun to his head because he's a black man. Then when they're called on it, so white supremacy is the whole way. But one of the really insidious ones, and it's why Kaepernick sits down and raises his voice, is what did they do when they got caught, and they realized, oh no, we did this to someone with a platform.
Right.
They started to try to undermine his person, right? So they release all this propaganda about him being a criminal.
Right.
We're coming right back. We're going to keep this conversation going. Thank you so much for your call. And it really is the exact reason why we need to follow Rock's lead here in turning our backs on the NFL until they get their act together. And we have the power over them. They need fans to exist. So
there's your slogan, to hell with the NFL.
There it is. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Austin, filling in for Tom. And in studio, Rock Newman, the host of The Rock Newman Show on WHUT-TV. You can find it online, The Rock Newman Show. And you want to take some more calls?
You know what, Alex? Sure, I'll just follow your lead. But I would like to say this before I don't have an opportunity to do it. I would like to thank Thom Hartmann for being the individual, for being the voice that he is, who every day of the week oftentimes gives voice to the voiceless. A man who doesn't necessarily ever yell and scream, but who is a warrior for equality. What better can we say about a human being? So, Tom, thank you very much, man. I love being able to do your show.
I agree completely. I actually talk about the truth tellers.
Yeah.
I talk about truth tellers like yourself, Rock Newman, raising up, telling truth to power. Thom Hartmann, truth teller, truth to power. And it's our voices. I get to be lucky and sit in this chair, but it's our voices that are going to win against the corporate media. They make money by not telling the truth. That is why Kaepernick is actually being punished. It's as much about the corporate media punishing a man who is using his platform to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Because their business is to not tell the truth. Their business is to sell widgets, protect the bottom line. And I think that's why your call to action, you said their God is money, and that's as clear as can be. And
no question about it. You got to hit them where it hurts.
That would change their behavior. Johnny in Oklahoma, you're on the line.
Hi, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for calling.
I'm a retired Marine gunnery sergeant, retired sergeant on the police department, half Puerto Rican, half Italian, and I am totally against what they're doing with the kneeling down. And now with the Black Power salute after sacks and stuff. I'm totally against it. That's why I'm boycotting, and I know many vets are boycotting for the same reason.
Wait a minute. You said you are against the boycott?
I think what I'm hearing, Rock, is what Johnny's saying is he does not support Kaepernick's right to free speech and is boycotting the NFL for people standing in solidarity with Kaepernick, which is, I mean, Johnny, thank you for your call.
Yeah,
to be honest,
thanks for your truthfulness.
That's also fine with me. They're boycotting the NFL. That's going to hurt their bottom line too.
Oh yeah.
We might disagree on it sounds like a lot But, you know.
Yeah, this is interesting because we disagree on what's right and wrong here, what's fair and reasonable, but the end result is what we're looking for. Hurt the NFL to get them to come around and practice equality.
I think that's exactly right. So thank you so much for your call, Johnny. Again, we might not agree on, it sounds like, much, but I'm fine if there is a boycott of the NFL. I think that, you know, we're going to win because it's really clear that it's not about patriotism or anything like that to try to silence Kaepernick.
Yeah.
This is America.
You know what? Let me try to explain something else quickly. When I was first doing radio, I had the good fortune to develop a relationship with Brent Musburger. And I found him to be a very decent man. I realized later on that he was one of the number one proponents of castigating Tommy Smith when he gave the Black Power salute in John Carlos in the 1968 Mexico Olympics. And Musburger had the opportunity many times through the years to apologize for what was, any way you look at it. Again, here are people calling to get eyeballs on inequities, as you call it, and the rot of America. And he never, to my knowledge, Musburger has never done that. And it has put a stain on his reputation. And for those who are in the NFL, who are pompous, you know, again, I posted a photo. I put a photo of Dan Snyder and Jerry Jones from the Dallas Cowboys talking about, and Jerry Jones is talking about morality. I have personal knowledge of what a personal sleazebag he is. And when I see this guy standing up in his pompous way, talking about an un-American, immoral kind of activity, it galls me.
So, Rock, we have about a minute left here, and I want to give you the minute. Take us out with a call to action. We have the power when it comes to the NFL. It can't be America's game if it's just so divided like we're seeing right now. Right. Tell, what would you like to see people do?
You know what, Alex? I'm going to start with this just real quick in terms of call to action, to go back to what is sort of your bread and butter about Social Security. And first to say, people, come from the sports world, but I care about that so deeply. Again, I was so personally impacted by it, as was my beautiful mom. So fight for Social Security with all that you have. When it comes to what is happening in the NFL, there is a glaring miscarriage of justice that is taking place right before your very eyes. And you have an opportunity now to be on the right side of history or the wrong side of history. You have an opportunity right now to do the right thing or to sit out idly by. You know, not to raise your voice, staring injustice in the face, staring injustice in the face, is to ultimately be a part of that injustice. So to all of you that are listening and to all of you that are watching, stand up. It's really not going to cost you much at all other than not being able to see these games, but you can help change America by standing up. Stand up and be strong, and God bless you.
Rock Newman, host of The Rock Newman Show on WHUT TV. Thank you so much for joining us.
Alex, thank you for inviting me.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com. Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com. Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit tomsbeets.com. Thom Hartmann here for Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a vital part of our media infrastructure. You've heard me say it a million times. I'll say it again. There is such a lack of good, clean, honest reporting and commentary in the American media scene because all of our corporate media has gone to a exclusively for-profit infotainment model rather than the old nonprofit news model that existed pre-1987 when Reagan ended the Fairness Doctrine. Before 1987, news agencies typically lost money for their parent companies because the news was the price of the station license. Now they all make money. Les Moonves famously said, Donald Trump may be terrible for America, but he sure is great for CBS. I'm paraphrasing from memory, but words to that effect, as you'll recall. He was the president of CBS or the CEO or whatever his title is. And this has created a real mess for all of us, trying to understand what's going on in the world, because all the news is either sports, who's ahead, who's behind, or drama, who's agonizing, and or who's happy, or who's winning, who's losing, that kind of stuff. Rather than what are the issues, what do they mean, how will they affect your life? If you want to know those things, you have to come to Free Speech TV, which is, unfortunate in a large sense for the United States. I mean, I would love to see the rest of America actually having news. But on the other hand, it's kind of cool that we've got this little corner of the media universe here in the United States that presents good, solid, vetted, fact-checked, real news. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help out Free Speech TV. This is it's a really important time. And I mean, not that there haven't been other important times. And I noticed we brought in, as I recall, around $3,000 on Monday and around $5,000 on Tuesday. Typically, we shoot for $10,000 a day and usually hit around $8,000. So we're way down. I'm guessing that's probably because a lot of you have been chipping in to help people with the hurricanes and the floods and the wildfires and everything else. I mean, there's so many needs out there. But I honor that. But that said, Free Speech TV is an important thing too. We have a set of premiums for your gifts. With an $80 gift, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and Ben Cohen's anti-Big Pharma money stamp. With a $120 gift, you get Mike Papantonio's new legal thriller, Law and Vengeance, along with the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. With a $240 gift, you get 2 books. This is They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. With a $360 gift, you get 3 books. You get Law and Vengeance, you get They Thought They Were Free, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and anti-pharma stamp. Anti-pharma, yeah. And plus you get a copy, an autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. That's with a $360 gift. With a $480 gift, you get Nancy McLean's book. This is just an absolutely amazing book, Democracy in Chains. It is, in my opinion, one of the best books that's been written this year. It's about the right wing and how they've basically, the corporate right wing, the billionaire right wing, and how they have risen up and essentially taken over
our government at levels from local all the way up to federal. And it's really remarkable. So you get that book, plus you get the other 3 books on Equal Protection by me. They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. And with a $1,000 gift, we'll figure out a way to get together for lunch. Louise and I are going to be spending much of our time, some of our time in Portland, some of our time here in D.C. So, we'll work it out. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Maybe you want to come to Portland. I mean, it's a beautiful town if you'd like to visit Portland. Here's your excuse. So that's that. Those are the goodies essentially that we're offering at those price point levels. But you can donate anything. I mean, if $80 is too high a lift for you, you can call up and make a $10 donation right now, and just to help the network. That's a good and noble thing. Operators are standing by, as they say. And in fact, it may not even be operators. It may be people who work at Free Speech TV who are answering the phone for you. The number is 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And, please call now. This is just such an important network to keep going. And it does cost money to get the electrons, to provide the lights, to send this image to you up to the, we have to send it from here to Denver, and then Denver up to the satellite, and then the satellites, both Dish and Direct, and off to cable systems, they pull it off the satellite too. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay, when we talk on the telephone, and when you pick up your phone, you're not yet on TV, but you're live. But it's just an amazing thing, but it costs money. So please call now and help out. Thank you so much.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom. I'm joined in studio by my business partner, Kamon Freeman, who is perusing Tom's bookshelf right now.
Yeah, he has the CIA's greatest hits here. So this is incredible. I'm in the right place.
And I was saying to Kamon just a second ago that having Rock Newman, host of the Rock Newman Show on WHUT-TV, and also a really important part, a mentor to you and helping us with getting We Act off the ground.
It was his show. His show was instrumental to the launch of We Act Radio, him and David Schuster.
And also, what I thought is interesting is that I had Rock on. We talked about a lot of things, but he spent a lot of time with No Cap, No NFL, which you're a leader on this movement, and I have you on, and we're going to talk about Dick Gregory. And Rock Newman was he
was a friend of Dick Gregory was his mentor, and for 44 years, really was instrumental in Rock's career because he helped get Riddick Bowe, the heavyweight champion, into fighting shape, and he ultimately won the crown, and that's where Rock made his bones.
Yep, and which I actually don't know if a lot of Tom's audience kind of know. I tried to spend a second with the magnitude of Rock Newman saying what needs to happen is people need to boycott the NFL, right? The magnitude of that coming from this man, Rock Newman, is massive.
Yes, it is. I mean, we're talking about someone who broke a record. Multi-million dollar deals as a professional boxing manager and promoter, and he's also part owner of a hockey team. He's in the game, and for him to say that is paramount to treason for people who are in the business who make their money that way. But right is right and truth is truth, and shout out to him for standing up.
And that is what I learned a lot from watching Rock at We Act Radio, and the thing that is actually defining about him is the fact that I've never seen him do anything but speak truth to power, and somewhat a little similar to me or you, I would think. The more powerful it is, the louder we're going to speak the truth.
Well, in that regard, yes, money is freedom of speech because there's a lot of people who won't say anything because they're afraid of the financial consequences of that. And then when you have more, then you don't want to lose that. So it does come a problem. But for those who have resources, they and in his regard use that platform. More power to them. We need more of that.
And I think that there's another man who never did anything but speak truth to power, and that's Dick Gregory, whose voice, will be heard for many years to come, but who recently passed away. And I think that, I actually didn't know that Dick Gregory was Rock Newman's mentor.
Yeah.
And that makes, so much sense.
They was in Iran together when the hostages was taken. They was there together at that time. He was his scheduler. He was his point person. And that was quite an experience, as he loves to tell that story.
And Dick Gregory also, I'll say my two favorites on our wall. We have all these signatures on our wall. Dick Gregory's and Marion Barry's. Marion Barry signed it Mayor for Life.
Dick Gregory signed from me to you.
Yeah, from me to you, Dick Gregory. And he's been in the studio countless times.
Several times. Unfortunately, during our devastating robbery, we lost an exclusive interview. For 2 hours, we had him. He did just for us, breaks and all. And I wanted to release it when I thought I was going to be appreciated for the 2 hours of his entirety. And unfortunately, we won't be able to share that with the world.
Well, at this moment, but we might be able to find that computer.
Well, hey, here we go.
I'm an aggressive optimist.
All right, when we get an opportunity, I want to read a statement from Dick whenever we're ready.
So I wanted you to come on. We can talk. I wanted you to come on and talk about Dick Gregory. I wanted you to come on. There's this thing about Dick Gregory, which is that people who know Dick Gregory are like, of course, it's Dick Gregory. How do you not know Dick Gregory? But in fact, people who don't know who Dick Gregory is are like, who?
It's one of the side effects of living a long life. People don't remember, and the people who do remember are gone. If I told you this guy was friends with John Lennon, Marvin Gaye, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Bob Marley, Hugh Hefner put him on. Hugh Hefner is actually responsible for Dick Gregory's success by having him in the Playboy Mansion performing. Dick Gregory is the first black stand-up comic in America.
Or another thing, people know Richard Pryor, right? They hear Richard Pryor, and so who came after and who Dick Gregory. It's not like they're competing. They made it possible.
Dick Gregory superseded Bill Cosby.
Right.
Dick Gregory did not fall off. He stepped back from the game, took his money, and started funding the civil rights movement, which created a vacuum for a kinder, gentler version of what we had in Bill Cosby.
And so just tell us a bit about Dick Gregory, and his memorial service was...
It was the longest memorial service I've ever been to in my life. It was 7 hours of sheer... hilarious stories. Rock was there pulling people off the stage, who had to peel them away from the microphones.
That's because people wanted to be associated.
Everybody was there. Lawrence O'Donnell, hero is Dick Gregory. Lawrence O'Donnell was there to speak and said that he credits all of his juice that he projects from Dick Gregory. He came there to honor Dick Gregory, his idol and his mentor, and it was so humbling to see that.
I was telling these guys, the producers, earlier that I got to meet Dick Gregory. He tolerated me standing there because I was with you, but it was really fascinating. I mean, the man is a legend.
Yes, and
his impact is just so immense. So try to just tell a little bit of the story of Dick Gregory.
His last book says, he was like a turtle, hard on the outside, soft on the inside, and willing to stick his neck out. I read his first book, which is Nigga, and in his brilliance, he wanted his autobiography to be called that because he wanted to take the word back. So anytime people use it, they're promoting his book. And that was his way of taking ownership of that and changing the conversation. So I read his first book. I'm now reading his last book. And the man was a humanitarian. He fasted he was on the apartheid South Africa divestment thing before it was fashionable. He was doing it in the 70s. He ran for president in 1968. Very serious ran. It was a write-in campaign. He had hundreds of thousands of votes. I cannot say enough about what he meant to the world, but I can say what he meant to me personally. I'm good friends with one of his youngest daughters, Yana Gregory, who's a fabulous artist, and I was able to get to know and spend time with him there. He came to events. He never gave airs. He never said, "I'm Dick Gregory." He spoke to everyone. He would stop and speak to everyone. Like certain people that remain nameless, if you try to approach them and say, "Hey, I want to get a radio drop for DC's independent radio station," they'll brush you off. No matter how progressive they are. But Dick Gregory, who has a star on the Walk of Fame, made time for everyone.
And that star is like seriously the littlest accomplishment.
I mean, I just get that for those who need to know.
That guy didn't
care about that.
He didn't give us a drop either, though. I mean, he did, but like the We Act Radio now, he came to We Act Radio before anything.
Yeah, when City Paper was saying who listens to We Act Radio, Dick Gregory was there.
Yeah, when the walls were finished, I believe Dick Gregory was there. And that is, to me, again, I joke, but it was serious. It was he came to support you. He came knowing that you were building this thing, that there is going to be this radio station in Anacostia, and it was built on the street with a glass window, and no one outside of Do the Right Thing, the movie, has built a radio station like that. That's We Love Radio there, and we're We Act Radio. Right. And Dick Gregory saw it immediately. He saw it immediately what you were trying to do, and was like, "I'm here for this."
Dick Gregory said, "Okay, you have a radio station on Martin Luther King Avenue." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Is this the I Have a Dream side of Martin Luther King Avenue or the radical side of Martin Luther King Avenue?" I said, "This is the radical side of Martin Luther King Avenue." So whenever you hear me say that, I'm giving a shout out to Dick Gregory.
And I just learned that
on Martin Luther King Avenue.
That is what you say all the time.
All the time.
And it's so important. It actually is a nice little story of what We Act Radio is meant to be. It's to tell the whole story of what Martin Luther King fought for, which Dick Gregory would know since he was there, which is why the FBI tried to assassinate Dick Gregory.
Yes, they did.
Because he was such a threat to white supremacy, which they called law and order at the time, and this is all reported. You can read this. You can Google it and read the newspaper articles about it. And
he carries those articles around with him.
Yeah. They set up the mafia to try to murder Dick Gregory because he was speaking such truth to power.
Yes.
And the truth that he was speaking was the entire story. He was speaking the truth, but one way of looking at it is the entire story of MLK. MLK said a lot more than I had a dream.
Absolutely.
MLK was doing things. MLK was fighting poverty. MLK was fighting imperialism. He was not the people who probably say that Colin Kaepernick is just doing politics right now, and they're putting him on blast and saying, they were the same people who were saying, this Martin Luther King guy has got to be nicer. He's got to. How does history work, though? Find me one of those people to admit now that back then they were right. They're all like, "No, I was definitely on Martin Luther."
I mean,
he's way popular now than he was then. That's for sure.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. The mainstream's talking points have not switched. It's just the same regurgitation, and I don't know why we haven't gotten hip to the game. Because it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed at all. But Dick Gregory was...
We're going to keep this conversation going on the other side of this break.
Cool.
Timon Freeman, co-owner of We Act Radio with myself.
Rest in peace.
Always a great time to have you in studio. We're going to be right back after this on the Thom Hartmann Program.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We're going to be taking your calls later in the program on the Thom Hartmann Program. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm joined in studio by my business partner, Kamon Freeman. We're talking about Dick Gregory, and we're talking about lots of stuff. So what, you want to take a call?
Yeah,
because we should take a call so that I can get through these callers who've been patiently waiting, and because Greg in North Dakota wants to talk about Colin Kaepernick. Greg, you're on the line.
Yeah, and I also have one question I'd like to ask you, Alex, about Social Security. But Colin Kaepernick, as far as I'm concerned, he's like Muhammad Ali, protesting the Vietnam War.
I think that's exactly right, and I think it's kind of, I don't know if I made the point clearly, but it's the Muhammad Ali. Now you ask people, and you're going to find very few people who are going to be against, Muhammad Ali. But if you were, at the time, you were to ask people, and it was, the mainstream was against him. It was the same thing with MLK. It's the same thing here with Colin Kaepernick. And what they all have in common is when people stand up to money power, when they stand up to the billionaires, when they stand up to injustice and speak truth to power, people always tell them to sit down. And, or in the case of Colin Kaepernick, to stand up.
I think the NFL is probably, the same governing body mindset for America. You have this billionaire boys club who are trading people. They're trading people, and they don't want anything to interrupt their fantasy world that is used as a distraction from reality. But at the same time, they want to profit off of this, the last, refuge of scoundrels, is patriotism, as Emma Goldman would say. And then here comes Colin Kaepernick, who was involved in a silent protest for all intents and purposes. And he has been marked public enemy #1 because of that. And he's been blackballed because of that. And we want to pretend it's not happening. I think he is a modern-day Muhammad Ali. He's paid the cost. He's lost millions of dollars. And he's actually backed it up with work that he's been doing in the community, from doing supply drops in Somalia to political workshops here in the States, empowering the communities that he found himself in. So shout out to Colin Kaepernick. It's up to us now to do what we're supposed to do. Are we going to continue to be rocked to sleep every Sunday, or are we going to actually be engaged into a consumer revolt? Because I think that's what we need.
Greg, you got about 15 seconds here for that second question.
Yeah, I had 2 jobs where I paid taxes for Social Security. Then I worked for 30 years on the railroad, and I'm on disability. My sister keeps insisting I can get Social Security, but I told her I can't.
So I'm going to have to caveat this with, you really have to have all of the information for questions like this, which is why if you're able to go to your local Social Security office, members of AFGE are going to be the people you're talking to. That's the union that represents the folks who work in Social Security offices. You have a very specific and complicated question because of the railroad pension program, but there is a right answer. So you're going to want to get that answer, because if you've paid in to Social Security for enough qualifying quarters, then you are fully insured. And you could go to the Social Security office to get that question answered. If you can't do that, you can call the 1-800 number. But you have to have all of the information to get to the right answer on Social Security, Greg. So go to the office or call the 1-800 number. Thanks so much for the call. We're going to be right back. Kamon staying with me here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom, and I'm joined in studio by my business partner, Kamon Freeman. We're talking about Dick Gregory. We're talking about the fight against white supremacy.
Yes, dismantling white supremacy brick by brick.
And I want you to read the statement by Dick Gregory that you've got pulled up.
All right, this is his words. As I approach my 85th revolution around the sun this year, I wonder why has it been so difficult for humankind to be kind, so difficult to be loving and lovable. For my militant brothers and sisters, please don't misconstrue loving and lovable to be weak or submissive. Love will always be triumphant over hate. I know I will not be here forever, nor do I desire to be. I have seen progress like most cannot appreciate because they were not there to bear witness. I dedicated my life to the movement. By doing so, I never thought I'll still be here. So many of my friends are not here. They were cut down by a system of hatred and evil. If they were here, they'll see the progress I see. The reality is far from perfect, but profoundly better than what daily reality was for my generation. Young folks, if you are wise, you would talk less and spend more time listening to the elders who saw evil up front and personal every day. How long I've been asking this question for over 40 years. How long before we realize our universal God-given potential? We have made immeasurable progress that cannot be debated. That said, we still have a long way to go. I have no desire to see this all the way through. The dreams I dreamed about 60 years ago have definitely been realized. To the young folks of all ethnicities, I say stay woke. Not as a catchphrase, but as a lifestyle. Most of the things that are killing us are in our minds and our daily routines. The way we think, the food, quote unquote, we eat, and the water we drink are so often don't drink. While so many go out and protest the small evils, the big evils are ever present and welcome into our homes. From the top to the bottom of my heart, I say, stay woke. Love you to life. Dick Gregory. Rest in peace.
And we have only a couple minutes left. I want to give them to you to just, what do you think? I mean, I think that you basically are living the testament to what Dick Gregory is saying. He's saying, talk less, listen more. I would add in there your do something.
And do something. Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, like, that is, it's really clear to me that a lot of your life is aimed in this exact same way. Because there's a militancy, but in terms of we're business partners, and everyone always confuses, and you can say of this what you want, but they think you're the mean one and I'm the nice one. Yeah. In fact, you're the nice one.
Yeah, the big black guy.
You don't, I mean, like, that statement really speaks to me because I know you. You always do hold that up. As we're challenging these systems of oppression and white supremacy, the fact that you surface and center art, right, and raising community up is so important as we're fighting to break down and rip down these structures of oppression. It's the exact same time building up community.
Absolutely. And my last conversation with Baba Dick Gregory was about a film project I was trying to get him on. It was John Brown film project. He was a fan of John Brown, as I. And he said that, John Brown was the greatest white man who ever lived, Jesus died for our sins. John Brown didn't, or his sons. And so I was going to follow him down to Harper's Ferry. He's going to, lay flowers at his grave. And we're coming back to do that October 16th by kicking off our project, John Brown Project. Patriotism, Patriotic Treason is the name of the project.
Ramon Freeman, co-owner of We Act Radio, my business partner. Thank you so much for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program.
Rest in peace, Dick Gregory.
We'll be right back on the Thom Hartmann Program. Stick with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
We're taking your calls on the Thom Hartmann Program right after this.
Thom Hartmann here for Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a vital part of our media infrastructure. You've heard me say it a million times. I'll say it again. There is such a lack of good, clean, honest reporting and commentary in the American media scene because all of our corporate media has gone to a exclusively for-profit infotainment model rather than the old nonprofit news model that existed pre-1987 when Reagan ended the Fairness Doctrine. Before 1987, news agencies typically lost money for their parent companies because the news was the price of the station license. Now they all make money. Les Moonves famously said, Donald Trump may be terrible for America, but he sure is great for CBS. I'm paraphrasing from memory, but words to that effect, as you'll recall. He was the president of CBS, or the CEO, or whatever his title is. And this has created a real mess for all of us, trying to understand what's going on in the world, because all the news is either sports, who's ahead, who's behind, or drama, who's agonizing, and or who's happy, or who's winning, who's losing, that kind of stuff, rather than what are the issues, what do they mean, how will they affect your life. If you want to know those things, you have to come to Free Speech TV, which is, unfortunate in a large sense for the United States. I mean, I would love to see the rest of America actually having news. But on the other hand, it's kind of cool that we've got this little corner of the media universe here in the United States that presents good, solid, vetted, fact-checked, real news. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help out Free Speech TV. This is it's a really important time. And I mean, not that there haven't been other important times. And I noticed we brought in, as I recall, around $3,000 on Monday and around $5,000 on Tuesday. Typically, we shoot for $10,000 a day and usually hit around $8,000. So we're way down. I'm guessing that's probably because a lot of you have been chipping in to help people with the hurricanes and the floods and the wildfires and everything else. I mean, there's so many needs out there. But I honor that. But that said, Free Speech TV is an important thing too. We have a set of premiums for your gifts. With an $80 gift, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and Ben Cohen's anti-Big Pharma money stamp. With a $120 gift, you get Mike Papantonio's new legal thriller, Law and Vengeance, along with the water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. With a $240 gift, you get 2 books. This is They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. With a $360 gift, you get 3 books. You get Law and Vengeance, you get They Thought They Were Free, you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and anti-pharma stamp. Anti-pharma, yeah. And plus you get a copy, an autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. That's with a $360 gift. With a $480 gift, you get Nancy McLean's book. This is just an absolutely amazing book, Democracy in Chains. It is, in my opinion, one of the best books that's been written this year. It's about the right wing and how they've basically, the corporate right wing, the billionaire right wing, and how they have risen up and essentially taken over our government at levels from, local all the way up to federal. And it's really remarkable. So you get that book, plus you get the other 3 books, Unequal Protection by me, They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, and Law and Vengeance by Mike Papantonio. Plus you get the Free Speech TV water bottle and the anti-pharma stamp. And with a $1,000 gift, we'll figure out a way to get together for lunch. Louise and I are going to be spending much of our time, some of our time in Portland, some of our time here in D.C. So, we'll work it out. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Maybe you want to come to Portland. I mean, it's a beautiful town if you'd like to visit Portland. Here's your excuse. So that's that. Those are the goodies essentially that we're offering at those price point levels. But you can donate anything. I mean, if $80 is too high a lift for you, you can call up and make a $10 donation right now, and just to help the network. That's a good and noble thing. Operators are standing by, as they say. And in fact, it may not even be operators. It may be people who work at Free Speech TV who are answering the phone for you. The number is 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And, please call now. This is just such an important network to keep going. And it does cost money to get the electrons, to provide the lights, to send this image to you up to the, we have to send it from here to Denver, and then Denver up to the satellite. And then the satellites, both Dish and Direct and off to cable systems, they pull it off the satellite too. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay, when we talk on the telephone, and when you pick up your phone, you're not yet on TV, but you're live. But it's just an amazing thing, but it costs money. So please call now and help out. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom. Staying in studio with us, my business partner, Kamon Freeman.
We Act Radio.
Co-owner of We Act Radio. Do something. Unofficial tagline, how hard can it be? Turns out it's pretty hard, actually. But here we are. I mean, 5 years, but really it's 7 years. 7 years of us working on it.
Yeah. But the door's been open 6 years now.
And through ups and downs, and I really the love we were shown after this burglary that just happened was amazing, and it really, I mean, it was a very low moment. There's a burglary of our radio studio. They broke in. They stole $15,000 at least of equipment. Smashed the ability of us to be on air. It was terrible.
Yeah.
And then the love that started pouring out across the country and in D.C., people were driving to say, don't let it, scare you away. It was amazing. And there's no point of me telling this other than it made me think about, we had Rockin'.
Well, we still have a GoFundMe if people want to still support us to return better and stronger.
And I think I'm determined no matter what to, because we're talking about Dick Gregory. I had Rock in here, Rock Newman, host of the Rock Newman Show and WHUT TV. And it made me realize how important the work that we do is and how meaningful it is. Sometimes, especially during the valleys, it's pretty hard to remember.
It changed the way I talk. I was making the mistake of saying, yes, we have a small radio station, Anacostia, where we do it. And it's like, no, we have an independent broadcast media center in the nation's capital.
Yes.
It's totally different perspective, and we're really here to rise up to the occasion and do that.
So I'm going to I got some calls, and you want to take calls?
Absolutely.
All right, let's go. Just because this call is on
love the Trump listeners,
NFL boycott, so I thought that this would be a good one with you. Alan in Indiana, you're on the line with me and Kamon Freeman.
Peace.
Yes. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I think you made a statement about boycotting the NFL. First of all, do you guys watch the games on TV?
Not anymore.
Okay. And secondly, how about 75% of the league is Negro? What are you going to do with that if you boycott?
Well, I would take exception to the term Negro unless we're talking about the 100-year-old organization. Those are employees, and they are employed by billionaire Trump supporters. So the argument that we're somehow supporting them or hurting them by doing something is ludicrous, because the fact is no one was concerned about them before. And in fact, this Colin Kaepernick, no matter what your politics are, you should recognize this as a labor issue, because here you have a qualified employee who's been denied opportunity to work in his trade because of his political views. I thought that was one of the things that we're supposed to be fighting against.
What was I'm sorry,
he was saying that because it's primarily a black league that we'll be hurting Negroes if we were to boycott the NFL, and we should be concerned about these guys.
Do you think Alan's concerned about these guys?
I doubt it.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know Alan, but the way it came out, it seemed like. But let's use this as a teachable moment for Alan and others.
For a teachable moment, Alan, even though black people have been a minority and haven't had an opportunity to define who they are, they have all agreed that for some time now, we're no longer referred as Negroes. So you might want to take that one as a teachable moment. The verdict is still out between African American and black. I prefer black, but African American is acceptable.
That was a very good teachable moment. I was even talking about the issue of the NFL, that was concern trolling. That is like, that guy isn't. I mean, I don't know him, but the way it was done, concern trolling is when he's pretending he's concerned about the employees who would be hurt by a potential boycott of a multi-billion-dollar industry, when that's not what he's concerned with. He doesn't like the politics of the boycott, right? And he's just looking. I don't like people who won't argue just honestly. Like if you have a disagreement with what you're proposing, with what we're talking about, like lay it out. You don't want an NFL boycott because you don't have an issue with them, sidelining and pushing out and blacklisting Colin Kaepernick over his political views. That's what the caller, it seems to me that's probably where the caller was. And you do have a problem with it, and you're drawing attention to it, again, exercising our free speech. No one has to watch or consume any product. And again, it's like, this is the picturesque, perfect form of protest. It's super peaceful. Doesn't get in anyone else's way, right? It's just you're saying exercise your power as a consumer to put pressure on this industry.
And it harps back to what they told A. Philip Randolph in 10,000 Men Named George when he was raising the issues of the working porters on the trains. It said by having this labor union that you're jeopardizing the livelihood of thousands of other black people who are going to be punished because of this. And the argument still remains that we're here to improve the conditions. And if you're not willing to struggle, then you're not really into progress.
And that's the argument of bosses forever, literally forever, has been this. If you argue about, we should get rid of child labor. And they're like, oh, but what about all the children who won't be able to have? And you're like,
money.
That is not their concern. They're raising the concerns of the bosses. So I wish that they would just honestly if we allow labor unions to bring in weekends and only have a 5-day work week, what about the wages that are lost on the weekends? Or you can't have a 16-hour day in unsafe conditions. Like they're always saying like it's for the workers, right? And like, no, you're not arguing for the workers. They're arguing on the side of the bosses. So that I'm going to take Alan. I'm going to make his argument to you.
Please do, but I just want to say that the argument is, NFL players and most athletes are in that way are treated just like veterans. Once they are used up, they are spit out. No one is concerned about them afterwards. I would challenge you to educate yourself on what happens on the vast majority of ex-NFL players. Some of them become homeless. Some of them are handicapped for life. Jim Brown told me personally that some days he can't get out of bed and walk, because of those hits. So we need to be concerned about the reality of these people's lives beyond the limelight. And I think he's been disingenuous at best.
So I think I'm going to take his. Our phone tree just lit up, so I'm not going to redo Alan's argument. I think you did a good job. When people pretend that they're making the argument from the workers when they're clearly making the argument from the bosses, that's concern trolling, and people should just. It gives it away right away, right? Like he's not willing to argue the facts versus you're calling for a boycott. He doesn't want a boycott. Anyways, we got a bunch of other callers. Let's go to a couple of them, actually.
Great.
Tom, because they're right in line with what we're talking about. Tom in Florida, you're on the air.
Yeah, it's Don.
Oh, Don. Sorry about that. Don, you're on the air.
Okay, thanks for taking my call.
Don, you in Florida?
Yeah, I'm in Hollywood, Florida.
Bless you and your family. I hope everything is okay.
Yeah, things are okay. But matter of fact, we came through it pretty well. We only had one day of being out of power, but we had backup generators, thank God.
That's right, so, backup generators, your interdependency, that's right.
Yeah, you got to be prepared down here because when it gets bad, it gets real bad. It was over 100 miles an hour in my house. It sounded like a freight train circling the house for about 8 hours, and then it began to die down.
Wow.
As a longtime union man, I called in because my father was a union man, AFL-CIO. I organized the Rampant Mile International in 1963 under the Teamsters Union myself. I was only 19 or 20 at the time. And so I have a deep belief in collective bargaining. And when one man suffers, all men suffer. If one man isn't free, no men are free. And this is a very deal-breaker issue for me as I listen because I quit watching the NFL over 30 years ago. I guess it was around the time that they broke the knees out of Gale Sayers. And I said, this is not a sport. This is spectacle. And these men are destroyed in a very few years. And then I learned later that the average lifespan of an NFL lineman was 54 years. I said, this is not a sport. This is spectacle. If you want to see sport, go watch baseball. Go watch track and field, even basketball. But this is a brutal type of gladiator sport that destroys the athlete. And when they're gone, unless they get a film contract or something like that. Nobody cares. Nobody. It's like, who's next? Who's the next great quarterback from Michigan or from Florida or from Gatorland or wherever? But I refuse to be any part of the gladiator games. Refuse. And I hope that other people are listening to me. My father was a Greyhound bus driver during the time of the Freedom Riders, and I was a little boy, and I watched him stand up on the front of the bus and say, all of you people on this bus, pay for your tickets with green money. Sit anywhere you want. And
Thank you, sir.
we were not very popular among the drivers at that time, but my father took a position. He believed it, and we lived it, and that was all there was to it. And I respected him for his opinion and learned later how great a man he was to do that.
Tom, that is a really, you said a lot in there. That last story is incredibly powerful. Thank you for calling in with all your points and sharing that story. Do you want to?
I'm inspired by that, and I think he's right. When one man's affected, we all are affected. You know, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and we need to take on this as a labor dispute and stop looking at it as the minuscule issue that the mainstream media is painting it as.
So I got a bunch of calls. I'm going to try to get to all of them. They want to talk to you, Kimon. Rob in Arizona, you're on the line.
Yes, thank you. Hey, one thing I wanted to point out, too, is it's not about race or culture and all that, because it is about the rich against the poor. The NFL is a perfect example of that, because they had to get special legislation to basically have a monopoly. They had an act of Congress to let them allow them to have a monopoly. And I'd like to say at this point, the state governors should all get together and just start a state league. We already own the stadiums, we the people. Why don't we just start our own league and screw the NFL?
The stadium is such an interesting. There's so much in the public financing of stadiums. I want to go to one thing though that you said that you said, Rob, which is, I think it's important, and I'm wondering where you are on it. I understand the want to say that it's not an issue of race. It's an issue of class.
I always get nervous when white people say that, but okay.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I really think that it's important for people to understand that it is an issue of race and class, that that racism and white supremacy are definitely, white supremacy is a power of the bosses, the oligarchs, the elite, to maintain their power. But you can't just say, oh, it's not about race, it's about class, because it is always both. And you can't have economic justice without racial justice. It's just true that the way that life happens to me and you, Kimon, is different. The way police officers look at me and you
we talked
is
about
different.
That.
And that's just a reality of it. So, I think that I hear where the caller is coming from, but I understand what he's saying. But it is definitely important to recognize that it is about class and race, that the racial component of what we're seeing in the NFL and the class component of what we're seeing in the NFL are really glaring. That's why I've called it with Rock. I kept saying it's a galvanizing moment, because it's really putting things in stark relief so that we can see things if we're willing to look.
And I just want to thank that caller, because he opened my eyes to something. Because those who do not know, I don't use the offensive term for the Washington football team, but they was the last team to get a black player. The owner at the time, I think it's George Marshall, I believe, swore that he would never have a black player as long as he's the owner. He took federal funds to build the RFK Stadium. And when he took the federal funds to build that stadium, then the government was able to step in and say, well, you have to abide by the laws of the state because you're taking federal money. And so that's how we got our first black player. So if that was done there with federal funds for a stadium, why can't we address this issue where he just painted in the public funded stadiums that comprise the NFL? And is it true the NFL is a nonprofit? Is that still the case?
It's slightly like the brand, I believe, is the nonprofit, but it's a massive for-profit industry. So it's they could lose that nonprofit and it wouldn't hit them. The publicly financed stadiums, though, that should be for a variety of reasons. The public shouldn't put a dime into stadiums. It's a horrible use of funds. literally a transfer of wealth from the people directly into the pockets of these billionaire owners.
Exactly.
And it's we only have 30 seconds left here.
Thank you for that call. I'm going to look into that.
What do you want people to do? Is there a central place they can go to learn more about this issue if people are on the fence? I understand, like, watching football is quite, like, people do it and it's part of their week. It's a big part of, like, how they just deal with life is they're like, okay, now I'm going to watch my sports. I personally found that it's easier because there's Saturday football and college football is fun to watch. But the call for people to boycott the NFL is a big call. So how do you talk about that? I gave a big question and you don't have much time to answer it.
In the words of Russell Crowe in Gladiator, are you not entertained? We need to realize that this is our gladiator sport, and the gladiator sport in the Roman Colosseums was actually during the decline of the Roman Empire. I'm sure you're the expert here, and you can attest to that they was throwing bread and stuff into the audience because they was starving, and they was entertaining the people. So we need to wake up, and we can make sure we have a consumer revolt right here, right now. If you love football, watch college football, watch minor football league. One of those programs on We Act Radio. But we need to understand that this is a justice, and an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Thom Freeman, co-owner of We Act Radio. Thank you for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Stay with us on the Thom Hartmann Program. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. In studio with us, Thom Freeman, co-owner of We Act Radio. I wanted to take another caller, but he just dropped off on...
what was the subject?
The NFL.
Right.
So let's just keep conversation going right where we left it. I think part of the power, some making consumer choices is easy, but the power of this one is that people really do enjoy watching the NFL, and I somewhat resist the traumatic brain injury stuff is super real.
That didn't bother them.
That's all real, and there's so much horrible behavior that they cover up.
That didn't bother them either.
I also, though, don't think that we can build political power on this issue by trying to shame people into not into doing what they saying you can't like the NFL. I think that there's more power to be built because you're going to get there. You're going to get a lot of people who probably didn't watch NFL.
It's not working on my dad. I can tell you that.
And that is what. So I think that to get fans to turn off the NFL on Sunday, it's going to need a little bit more of a. I don't know what it is. It's what's going to make the campaign difficult is to get people who are fans of the sports, who make it a part of their lives to say, and I think most people are lifting up the best part of sports, which is...
In my opinion, it would take a critical mass of the actual athletes, active players or inactive players, to make a statement on this. If there was a Jim Brown, Lou Alcindor, Muhammad Ali type press conference, Bill Russell style press conference with all these people coming together, I think that would be an effective way to get a critical mass to take a position on this issue.
So make it a player-led as well as community-led.
Yeah, because I think that would because there's a lot of people on the fence that's going to the games. We was at FedEx Field 2 Sundays ago for the Washington's first home game, doing interviews because our own council member here in D.C., Council Member Robert White at large, actually put our statement out boycotting the NFL and why. And we read that statement in front of FedEx Field. There was police officers who told us that we weren't supposed to be using bullhorns, but we could read the statement with the bullhorn because they supported what we was doing. There was people going to the game that wanted to talk about Colin Kaepernick felt they felt bad about not giving up their season tickets. So there is a lot of people on the fence. The numbers are not showing a clear cut of where people are. There's a lot of people are thinking about this issue. It's just a matter of what would it take to push them over the edge.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I'm getting at is I'm not disagreeing with strategy, and I know that you're having lots of discussions on it. I think that there's a pool of people who would take action if you could engage them in the right way. It's also possible that this pool of people could be pushed away if they don't feel like they're allowed to like football, right? And I feel like if we can get that, then we can get this pool of people who do like football and actually see, well, we can make football better by taking advantage of this or taking part in this action.
Real quick, my little cousin died playing football, so I'm already on a little jaded.
You're on that side. Come on, Freeman, sticking with us. We'll be right back on the Thom Hartmann Program after this. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom. I'm going to close out the show. I apologize to all the callers I didn't get to. Thank you for calling in and everyone who did call in. And, we talked about a lot. I'm going to actually take the host privilege here of closing out the show on Trump Care, where I started the show, because this threat is very real right now. Your voice is so powerful. And that's how we beat it in every other iteration. It's the same thing. We need to raise our voices right now. If you're in Alaska, if you're in Maine, if you're in West Virginia, if you're in Arizona, if you're in Nevada, then your voices are enormous here. Call your senators, call their home offices, each one of their offices, call them in the morning and in the afternoon, and just raise your voices. If you can go to their offices, go to their offices in person. This is a fight we have. It's done. It's absolutely done at the end of the month, and the Congress is not here for many days between now and the end of the month, so they really don't have much time to try to get through this incredibly complex logistical legislative process. And if we raise our voices and throw some sand in the gears, we are going to defeat this again, just like we did before. If you're not in one of the target states, still call your senators. Raise your voices. This is all of us raising our voices together, standing together, remembering that all power resides in the people, and that's how we're going to beat money power again, like we did the last time they tried to ram Trump Care down our throats. Raise your voices. Call your senators. Do it now. Do it today, in the morning and the afternoon. Thank you so much. I'm Alex Lawson. You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com. Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com. Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit tomsbeets.com.
Thom Hartmann here for Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a vital part of our media infrastructure. You've heard me say it a million times. I'll say it again.